Hear ye, by Odin's beard, is this thing still working? If you're picking up this signal, prepare yourselves, because you're tuned into the Ragnarok Report, broadcasting live, or more accurately dying live, from the literal end of the Nine Realms, in the year, well, let's just call it Doomsday. My name is Bjorn, and if the sheer impossible audacity of this trans-dimensional transmission straight from the final battle doesn't compel you to immediately smash that subscribe button and enlist in our last glorious stand, then, frankly, you're beyond the reach of even the All-Father's glory. Do it now, before the sun gets eaten, and tell me, if this cosmic chaos allows, from what strange undoomed realm are you listening? What year has fate decreed for you, and what hour do these final glorious tidings reach your ears? We're curious what comes next. Now, sharpen your axes, brace your shields, useless but traditional, and let's get on with the bloody end of everything. First, it was a long winter, then another, then another. We thought Thor was just in a really bad mood. Turns out, it was just the appetizer before the main course of Armageddon. If this cold open has given you the chills, commit to our channel by subscribing now. This is Magnus, son of Eric, broadcasting from the end of everything, it seems. I'm scratching this onto the last smooth stone I could find, hoping that when the world is born anew, someone finds a record of how the old one went out. Not with a bang, not yet anyway, but with a shiver. It began in the year we stopped counting. The first winter was a novelty, a challenge worthy of a skald's tale. We laughed, boasting that our beards would grow thick enough to insulate the longhouses. We held feasts, burning precious wood just to spite the cold. We were Vikings, after all. A little bit of frost wasn't going to send us crying to our mothers. We sharpened our axes, raided our own pantries for a change, and told ourselves summer was just around the corner, probably stuck in a celestial traffic jam. Ooh, the simple, blissful ignorance of it all. We were so very, very wrong. The second year was when the laughter died in our throats, frozen solid like the fjord. No Thor came, no green shoots pierced the endless white. The sun became a pale, forgetful god, a distant cousin of the glorious orb we once knew. It would show its face for a few fleeting hours, a smear of weak light in a bruised purple sky, before surrendering to the oppressive dark once more. The livestock, bless their foolish hearts, began to fall. The grain stores, once symbols of our prosperity, became guarded vaults of dust and regret. The children stopped asking when they could play outside. They just stared into the flames, their faces thin, their eyes old. We started eyeing our neighbors not with the usual friendly rivalry, but with a cold, calculating hunger. The bonds of kinship, the very threads that weave a clan together, began to snap, one by one, under the strain of a world that had forgotten the warmth of summer. By the dawn of the third year, society was a ghost. The concept of a jarl or a carl became meaningless when everyone was just a shivering, starving creature fighting for one more sunrise. The great halls, once roaring with songs and the clashing of horns, fell silent, their timbers groaning under the weight of the snow. The only sounds were the eternal, maddening howl of the wind and the gnawing in our bellies. We learned a new kind of quiet, the quiet of a world holding its breath before the final scream. All the gold, all the silver from 100 raids meant nothing. You can't eat a king's ransom. Trust me, Ivar the Unlucky tried, broke 3 teeth on a Saxon brooch before he finally understood. We learned the ultimate truth. In the end, a man would trade all the treasures of Midgard for a single fat bird. But the birds were long gone. That joke we had, about Thor being in a bad mood, it felt like a tale from a different age, a relic of a world that believed in simple explanations. This wasn't a tantrum. This was a plan. This was the Vova's prophecy coming to life, the grim bedtime story we used to scare our children, now playing out in real, agonizing time. The great, the terrible, the Fimbul winter. The prelude to the grand finale. This wasn't the main course of Armageddon. It was the gods clearing their throats, the universe cracking its knuckles before the fight. We weren't living through a bad season. We were living in the closing chapter of the sagas. And the epilogue, we were beginning to realize, would be written in blood and fire. The chill we felt was no longer from the snow, it was the cold dread of understanding. The omens started to pile up like snowdrifts against the door. The sky, once a canvas for the gods' artistry, became a hunting ground. We'd see it at dusk, the sun fleeing for the horizon with a panicked, desperate speed, and chasing it, a shadow, a presence we could feel in our bones, Skoll, the wolf that hunts the sun. At night, it was Hati's turn, a hunger that pursued the moon, leaving it battered and bleeding like the auroras, once the beautiful dance of the Valkyries, now looked like celestial wounds. Green and pink gashes in the darkness. The stars, our ancient guides, began to flicker and die, as if a great hand was snuffing them out one by one. The old stories weren't stories anymore. They were the weather report for the end of the world. We cried out to the gods, our voices swallowed by the storm. We made our sacrifices. We bled our best remaining ram on the high altar, its steam rising into the uncaring wind. Nothing. We called for Thor to smash this cursed winter with his hammer, to bring the thunder and the rain. Only the thunder of distant, cracking glaciers answered. We begged Odin for his wisdom, for a sign, for anything. The Allfather was silent. It was the most terrifying answer of all. It felt like they had packed up and moved on, leaving the lights on in Asgard, but barring the door to Midgard. We were left to our own devices, a forgotten project in the grand cosmic workshop. The silence of the gods was a heavier burden than any winter. Then came the shaking. It wasn't the shivering of a man freezing to death. It was the world itself, seized by a tremor. The ground beneath our feet, the one constant we had ever known, began to move. Distant mountains shed their white cloaks in thunderous avalanches, not of snow, but of rock and ancient ice. The very roots of Yggdrasil, the world tree, seemed to be groaning in protest. A deep, resonant hum filled the air, a note of finality that vibrated through your teeth and into your soul. This was it. The winter was the warm-up, the overture played on an instrument of ice and despair. Now the main performance was about to begin. The wolves are closing in, the giants are stirring, and I can feel a terrible, world-splitting lightning in the air. This record, this stone, is my last act of defiance, a message in a bottle thrown into the sea of time. If you are hearing this, if you are reading this in a future I cannot imagine, know that we did not go quietly into the long night. We faced the end with a curse on our lips and a joke in our hearts. And if you want to hear the rest of the story, if you want to bear witness to the fall of gods and the unmaking of worlds from someone who had a front row seat, then you must commit yourself. This isn't just a channel, it's a saga stone, a final testament. Subscribe now and let the roar of our end echo in your age. Strike the bell like you're striking a blow for Midgard, for the final, glorious, terrible battle awaits. You know it's a bad day when the giant wolf you thought was mythical eats the sun. And then the serpent that literally coils around the world decides to stretch. My advice? Don't go near the coast. Don't let our desperate howls fade. Subscribe for more tales of cosmic monsters. This is Magnus again, still broadcasting from the edge of everything. The Fimbulwinter, the 3 years of endless ice and misery, that was just the world taking a deep, shuddering breath before the real screaming started. The shaking I mentioned before, the groaning of the world's bones, found its source. It was a sound we all felt more than heard, a resonant snap that echoed not through the air, but through our very souls. It was the sound of a promise breaking, of a leash snapping. It was the sound of Gleipnir, the fabled chain made of impossible things. The sound of a cat's footfall, the beard of a woman, finally giving way. We had always been told it was unbreakable. It turns out, even impossible things have an expiration date. And from the depths of some forgotten, cursed island, a howl tore through the fabric of reality. This was not the howl of a common wolf. This was a howl of vengeance held back for ages, a sound so vast it shook the stars from their complacency. Fenrir was free. The stories the skalds sang, the ones we'd listened to by the firelight, wide-eyed and clutching our mead, were no longer just tales. They were marching towards us, alive and ravenous, the great wolf, the beast the gods themselves feared so much they resorted to trickery to bind him, was loose. And he was, to put it mildly, rather upset. His rage was a palpable force, a wave of pure hatred that rolled across the frozen wastes and soured the very air we breathed. We saw him then, or rather, we saw the effect of him. The pale, pathetic sun that had been loitering in our sky was suddenly gone. One moment a dim circle of light, the next just a smear of darkness against the bruised heavens, as if a colossal mouth had simply inhaled it. That's when the real panic, the headless chicken variety, truly began. It's one thing to be cold and starving. It's another to have your only source of light eaten by a mythological wolf. The sky itself seemed to bleed around the new void, a gaping wound where the sun used to be. The age of men was officially over. We were now living in the age of, oh gods, the giant wolf ate the sun. It's a less catchy title, I'll admit. His form was a mockery of nature, a churning storm of shadow and fur and teeth that defied scale. His lower jaw scraped the frozen earth, gouging furrows in the permafrost wider than any longship. His upper jaw, that brushed against the heavens, a comet of slobber and rage streaking across the starless void. His eyes were twin furnaces of ancient malice, burning with the heat of 1 billion grudges. He was not just a wolf. He was the concept of being devoured given form, and as he rampaged, the world trembled. Mountains, which had stood since the dawn of time, crumbled like stale bread before his charge. The very idea of a safe place became a bitter joke. The world tilted on its axis. Not figuratively, I mean it literally tilted. The horizon, that one reliable straight line in a world of chaos, started to lurch and sway like a drunken sailor. This was not the wolf's doing. This was something else. This was a global readjustment, the kind of shift you feel when a creature that has been asleep for millennia, a beast that uses the entire world as its bed, finally decides to wake up and stretch. The seas, which had been locked in ice, began to heave and crack. A great groaning sound came from the depths, the sound of a spine uncoiling, a spine that encircled all of Midgard. Jormungandr, the Midgard serpent, the world-eater, was rising. He was done biting his own tail. The first sign was the tide, not a normal tide, but a single colossal wave that rose from the horizon, a moving mountain of black water and shattered ice. It wasn't a wave of the sea. It was the sea itself, displaced by a body of unimaginable size. Coastal villages, the ones that had somehow survived the Fimble winter, were erased in an instant. Wiped from the map without a sound loud enough to compete with the sheer, deafening roar of the ocean being thrown into the sky. My advice about not going near the coast? I hope someone took it, though to be fair, the coast was now coming to us. Then we saw him. His head, larger than any mountain, breached the surface. It was a vision of reptilian fury, scaled in shades of obsidian and poisonous green. His eyes were ancient lanterns of malevolence, each one a swirling galaxy of cold, indifferent hate. From his gaping maw, a venomous mist spewed forth, a foul breath that poisoned the air and turned the churning sea into a toxic soup. The very water that touched his hide seemed to hiss and boil, turning the waves into a steaming, corrosive fog that ate away at the land, dissolving rock and soil with equal ease. The stench of it, a mix of ancient brine and cosmic decay, reached us even miles inland. The scale of him was a concept the human mind simply wasn't built to process. You could see one part of him, a massive, coiling loop of his body cresting the waves, and it would fill your entire field of vision. Yet you felt that this was just a fraction of his being. He was the horizon. He was the storm. The tales said he encircled the world, and for the first time we understood what that truly meant. The world was his terrarium, and he was finally ready to break the glass. He wasn't just in the ocean, he was the ocean, a living, breathing, and deeply malevolent embodiment of its darkest depths. His rising created chaos on a scale that makes Fenrir's sun snacking seem like a quaint party trick. The oceans didn't just flood the land, They revolted. Tsunamis hundreds of feet high crashed against the continents not just once but over and over again, as every movement of the serpent's colossal body sent new shock waves through the water. The very bedrock of Midgard groaned under the strain. New islands were born from volcanic fury as the seafloor buckled, while ancient coastlines vanished forever beneath the waves. The world was being remade, redrawn, by a cartographer of pure destruction. The two of them, Fenrir and Jormungandr, were a symphony of annihilation. One devoured the light and the land, a force of pure, charging fury. The other poisoned the air and drowned the world, a rising tide of venom and despair. It was a coordinated attack, a 1-2 punch from Loki's monstrous offspring, designed to shatter every last vestige of the old world. You could hear Fenrir's apocalyptic howl, answered by Jormungandr's world-shaking roar, a call and response of ultimate destruction. It was the family reunion we'd all been dreading. The sky became a canvas of horrors. With the sun gone, the only light came from the lightning that now began to crackle and fork across the heavens. But this wasn't Thor's lightning, the clean, righteous bolts we knew. This was a sickly greenish-yellow lightning born from the venomous breath of the serpent and the storm of rage that was the wolf. It illuminated scenes no one was ever meant to see, the impossible curve of the serpent's body arching over the mountains, and the silhouette of the wolf, its head thrown back as it prepared to swallow the moon for dessert. We found ourselves caught in the middle, tiny, insignificant creatures trapped between a rabid wolf the size of a country and a snake that used the planet as a chew toy. What do you do? Where do you run? There is no high ground when the sea itself is rising to meet the sky. There is no cave deep enough to hide from a howl that shatters stone. You simply stand your ground, grip your axe a little tighter, and try to remember the words to a defiant song. Your voice will be drowned out, of course, but it's the principle of the thing. Our societal breakdown during Fimbulwinter seemed almost quaint now. We squabbled over scraps of bread while these two titans were just beginning their warm-up routine. All our petty grievances, our clan rivalries, our blood feuds, they all evaporated in the face of this shared ultimate doom. There was a strange sort of unity in it. When your neighbor is about to be washed away by a venomous tidal wave, you stop caring that his chickens once dug up your vegetable patch. Just give him a grim, understanding nod. We were all in the same sinking longship now. The sheer, unrelenting noise was a torment in itself. It was a physical assault. The roaring, the howling, the crashing, the splitting of the earth. It was a constant barrage that left no room for thought, only for primal, instinctual fear. The world was screaming its death agony, a cacophony conducted by two monsters who had waited eons for this performance. Silence became a forgotten luxury, a memory from a time when the world made sense. Looking back, the gods' plan to bind Fenrir with a flimsy-looking ribbon seems optimistic. Did they really think that would hold forever? Did they not have a plan B? It feels like they put a universal "Do Not Disturb" sign on Asgard's door and hoped for the best. Well, the disturbance is here. It's a disturbance with very large teeth, and a brother who is currently poisoning the entire planet. Your move, All-Father. No pressure. This broadcast, this scratching on a stone, feels more futile than ever. What wisdom can I offer? What hope can I give? None. But I can bear witness. I can tell you what it looks like when the legends walk the earth and the sky falls. I can describe the majesty of our destruction, the terrible, awe-inspiring beauty of the end. There is a certain clarity in it all. All the lies, all the ambitions, all the trivialities are burned away, and you are left with the cold, hard truth of your own mortality in the face of the infinite. The ground is still shaking. A new sound is joining the chorus now, a high, piercing note like a horn call from the very edge of the world. It's thin, but it cuts through the chaos. I don't know what it means, but it doesn't sound friendly. It sounds like a summons. It sounds like another player is about to enter the field. As if a world-eating wolf and a planet-strangling serpent weren't enough. Apparently, the gods believe in a full-scale invasion. We are seeing creatures now, things crawling from the cracked earth and riding the toxic waves, things that have no name in our tongues, twisted, nightmarish forms that scuttle and writhe in the sickly light. The world isn't just being destroyed, it's being corrupted, turned into a playground for every horror that once lurked in the darkest corners of the 9 realms. The air is thick with the promise of more pain to come. I watch as a fissure opens in the earth nearby, a glowing chasm that smells of sulfur and old bones. It's a stark reminder that our problems are not limited to just the surface world. The realms are bleeding into one another. Hell is likely having an open house, and everyone is invited. I should probably move away from the glowing chasm of doom, but honestly at this point it feels like just another inconvenience. Let's take a moment to appreciate the dark humor of it all. For generations we Vikings sought glorious battle, a worthy death to earn our place in Valhalla. We feared dying of old age, of sickness, of boredom. Well, congratulations to us. We're getting the glorious battle part all right. A bit more glorious than we might have bargained for. Dying of boredom is definitely off the table. The psychological toll is immense. You see your reality dismantled piece by piece. The sun, the moon, the sea, the land. All the things you take for granted are revealed to be fragile and temporary. It forces a certain philosophical perspective, or it just makes you want to find a very, very strong drink. I, for one, am leaning heavily towards the latter. If anyone finds a cask of mead that hasn't been swallowed by a fissure or washed away by a venomed tsunami, my coordinates are somewhere near the end of the world. The very fabric of what we considered solid is gone. The earth is liquid, the sea is sky, and the sky is a monster's maw. We are adrift in a sea of impossibilities. Our sagas, our history, our entire understanding of the cosmos has been a preface for this single, terrifying moment. We are living inside the final blood-soaked poem. What comes next? I can hear the echo of that horn again, closer this time. I see ships on the horizon, sailing on the tsunami waves, their sails black against the lightning-streaked sky. Ships made of the fingernails of the dead. Naglfar has set sail. The army of hell is coming. This is no longer just a monster problem. This is a full-blown, multi-real invasion. The grand entrance was just the beginning. So as the world ends around me, as the poisoned sea laps at the shattered mountains and the wolf's howl echoes in the sunless dark, I offer this final thought. It has been a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day. But it has also been undeniably epic. And if you are out there in the quiet future, listening to this tale of cosmic horror, do not let it be for nothing. This is the ultimate saga. This is the story of Ragnarok. Do not let our end be forgotten. Become a part of this chronicle. Subscribe to this broadcast from the abyss and ensure that the tale of our magnificent, terrifying doom echoes for all time. Hit that bell, for it may be the last bell that ever rings. A ship made of toenails? Seriously? Even for the gods? That's just poor taste. And now it's full of giants. Great. If you're still afloat amidst the chaos, then you absolutely must subscribe. This is Magnus, your correspondent from the final act of everything. Just when I thought the cosmic horror couldn't get any more specific or, frankly, unhygienic, the universe decided to prove me wrong. That horn I mentioned, the one that cut through the symphony of destruction? It was an arrival announcement. Riding the very tsunamis created by Jormungandr, a new spectacle has appeared. It's a ship, but this isn't one of our sleek, proud longships, built for glory and raiding. No, this is something pulled from a madman's nightmare, a vessel that offends the eyes as much as the soul. This, my friends, is Naglfar, and it is every bit as disgusting as the legends claimed. For generations we've been told to trim the nails of our dead before burial. It was a sacred duty, a final act of care to prevent their keratin from being used in the construction of this very ship. We thought it was a metaphor, a grim reminder of duty. We were wrong. It was literal, practical advice. Because now, sailing on a sea of poison under a sky without a sun, is a battleship crafted entirely from the fingernails and toenails of countless generations of the dead. Its hull shimmers with a pale, ghastly luminescence, a mosaic of yellows, whites, and greys. It's a monument to poor grooming and a testament to the gods' bizarrely specific prophecies. The sheer, obsessive dedication required to build this thing is almost as terrifying as the monsters. The ship itself is an abomination, a grotesque parody of a warship. It moves without wind, its single tattered sail the color of a grave shroud. It carves through the toxic waves with an unnatural silence, the only sound a faint, continuous, scraping clatter, like a billion rats scrabbling behind a wall. It is impossibly huge, dwarfing any vessel forged by man. Upon its deck, beneath the sickly green lightning that now serves as our only illumination, stands an army that makes the ravenous wolf and the world serpent seem like a welcoming committee. This is the combined might of the underworld and the realm of giants, and they have come to finish the job. At the helm stands a figure that could only be Hyrrokin, the giantess who once launched Baldur's funeral pyre, her face a mask of leering cruelty. Or perhaps it is Loki himself, freed from his own torment and now reveling in the chaos he orchestrated, a smirk playing on his lips. The distance is too great, the air too thick with venomous mist to be certain. But whoever steers this grotesque vessel does so with a purpose, a grim expertise in navigating the currents of global annihilation. The ship doesn't just sail, it glides with an unholy grace, a harbinger of the final bloody battle that is to come. Its prow is aimed squarely at the heart of what remains of Midgard. The passengers, the grim soldiers of this final war, are a sight to curdle the blood. On one side of the deck stand the legions of Helheim, the dishonorable dead. These are not the glorious warriors feasting in Valhalla. These are the shades of those who died of sickness, of old age, of shame. Their forms are gaunt, their eyes hollow sockets of despair, their armor rusted and their weapons brittle. They are a silent, grey tide of misery, an army motivated not by glory but by an eternity of resentment. They are the collective bitterness of the underworld, given swords and a final, terrible purpose. Their presence is a cold weight, a psychic chill that penetrates deeper than any. And on the other side, the Jotnar, the frost giants of Jotunheim. Unlike the wraith-like dead, the giants are beings of terrifying substance. Their forms are craggy and immense, like mountains given legs. Their skin is the color of blue glacial ice, their beards tangled masses of hoarfrost, their breath a freezing fog. Each one is a walking blizzard, their roars the sound of avalanches and cracking ice. They carry clubs carved from primeval trees and axes the size of longhouse doors. They are brute force incarnate, the raw, untamed power of winter come to reclaim the world. Their laughter booms across the waves, a sound of pure, malicious joy in the face of our utter destruction. Seeing them together, the silent, spectral dead and the roaring, colossal giants, is a lesson in despair. It's an alliance of everything we fear, the slow, creeping dread of a lonely death, and the overwhelming, sudden violence of a force of nature. They are two different flavors of doom, served up on the same horrifying platter made of toenails. The psychological impact is staggering. It's one thing to fight a wolf or a serpent. They are beasts, driven by hunger. This is an army with intent, with malice, with commanders. This is not just chaos. This is a coordinated strategic invasion from the realms of nightmare. The sheer logistics of it all are mind-boggling. Who organized this? Who sent out the invitations? Was there a sign-up sheet in hell? Join the Ragnarok invasion, competitive pillaging, excellent opportunities for cosmic destruction. The absurdity of it is a thin shield against the terror, a joke you tell yourself as you watch the end of the world sail towards you. But the joke wears thin when you see the scale of their weapons and the hunger in their myriad eyes. This is the culmination of every prophecy, the final payment on a debt the gods incurred long ago, and we, as usual, are caught in the middle. The ship acts as a rallying point. From the churning, venomous sea, other horrors begin to emerge, drawn to Naglfar's banner. Sea-Draugr, the bloated corpses of drowned sailors, pull themselves onto the shore. their waterlogged bodies leaving trails of slime on the frozen ground. They are the grim escorts, the outriders for the main force, their moans adding a new, gurgling layer to the cacophony of the apocalypse. The world's ecosystem is being replaced, one monster at a time. The age of man is over. The age of soggy, vengeful zombies has begun. I can see their faces now as the ship draws nearer. The giants are not uniform. Some are twisted and malformed with multiple heads or limbs like jagged shards of ice. Others are beautiful in a terrible, severe way, their features sharp and cruel as a winter wind. And among the dead I see familiar shapes, figures that could have been farmers, merchants, old women from my own village, now twisted into spectral soldiers of doom. They are the final, personal insult from the gods, an army built from our own forgotten ancestors. This sight has broken something in the men around me. The grim defiance we held onto in the face of beasts is faltering before this calculated personal effrontery. To be devoured by a wolf is a fate, however terrible. To be slain by your own great-great-grandfather's ghost, whose nail clippings hold together the very ship he's riding on, is just insulting. The will to fight is draining away, replaced by a profound sense of cosmic futility. How can you raise an axe against a force so vast, so ancient, so utterly, comprehensively grim? I find myself focusing on a single massive fingernail on the hull of Naglfar. It's yellowed and thick, probably belonged to some ancient king who never did a day's work in his life. I wonder about the man it belonged to. Did he know his nail would end up here, a single tile in the mosaic of the apocalypse? It's a strange thing to think about, but it's better than looking at the giant who is currently picking his teeth with what looks like an entire pine tree. You have to find the small details to focus on, lest the bigger picture swallow you whole. The waves that Naglfar creates are not of water, but of pure dread. They wash over you, cold and heavy, leaving you gasping for a breath of courage that isn't there. Every warrior's instinct screams to run, to hide, to burrow into the earth and never come out. But there is nowhere to run. The sea is a toxic flood, the land is cracking apart, the sky is a monster's gullet, and now the coast is, well, the coast is a parking lot for a toenail ship full of giants. Our options are becoming severely limited. A cheer goes up from the giants on the deck, a rumbling sound that causes fresh avalanches on the distant, shattered mountains. They have spotted something. Not us, we are too insignificant. They are cheering for the sky. I look up, past the sickly lightning. The clouds of venom are parting, and a new light is breaking through. But it is not the light of a new sun, it is the light of fire, a terrible, all-consuming fire that seems to be coming from the south. The fire giants are on the move. Surtur and the legions of Muspelheim are coming. So to recap the current situation for anyone just tuning in, the sun and moon are gone, eaten by a giant wolf who is still rampaging somewhere to the north. The world serpent has risen, flooding the world with poison and tsunamis, and now a ship made of dead people's nails, crewed by giants and ghosts, has arrived, just in time to welcome the fire giants from the south. It feels like the gods are just ticking off a checklist of apocalyptic horrors at this point. I'm half expecting a plague of locusts, but they'd have to be very, very large locusts to even register. This is no longer a battle for Midgard. This is the universe collapsing in on itself, a controlled demolition where we are the unfortunate inhabitants of the building. The grand, heroic charges and shield walls we dreamed of seem like a child's fantasy now. What shield wall can stand against a giant who can step over a mountain? What axe can harm a ghost? The rules of war have been rewritten by authors of pure madness. The ship continues its inexorable approach. It doesn't need to land. The giants are simply striding off the deck, wading through the tsunami-ravaged coastline as if it were a shallow puddle. Their feet crush forests into splinters. Their arrival is not an invasion, it's a casual stroll that unmakes the world with every step. The dead, meanwhile, simply float from the deck, a silent, ethereal tide that flows over the land, their chilling touch extinguishing the last embers of life. The air grows colder as the frost giants advance, their very presence draining the heat from the world. Simultaneously, a wave of searing heat begins to roll in from the south. the herald of Muspelheim's approach. We are caught between fire and ice, a classic dilemma I've read about in poems, though it's far less poetic when it's happening to you. It's a pincer movement on a continental scale. The strategy is sound, I'll give them that. Diabolical, but sound. I see a giant stop and look down. He has spotted one of our settlements, or what's left of it. He watches it for a moment with a look of idle curiosity, the way a child might look at an ant-hill. Then he smiles, a slow, cruel cracking of his icy features. He raises his colossal foot. It's a casual, thoughtless gesture of destruction. There is no anger in it, no passion, just the simple, crushing indifference of the immense towards the insignificant. That is, perhaps, the most terrifying thing of all. We are the ants. And the boot is falling. We can shake our tiny fists, we can scream our tiny screams, but the boot does not care. It just falls. This is the truth of Ragnarok. It is not a war of equals. It is an extermination. An extinction event with a guest list. And yet, I still hold my axe. It feels impossibly small and foolish in my hand. A child's toy. But it is mine. The giants have their ice. The dead have their despair. The serpent has its venom. We have our defiance. It is all we have left. A stubborn refusal to simply lie down and be crushed. A final angry no screamed into the face of the inevitable. This broadcast, this scratching on stone, has become my defiance. My voice is my weapon. My story is my shield. If the world must end, let it end with a witness. Let the future know that we saw it all, that we understood the horror, and that we did not blink. We faced the tornado ship and the armies of doom, and we made our report. Let this be a lesson, let this be a warning, or let it just be a damn good story to tell around whatever campfires you have in the future. A tale of how the old world went down, not with a whimper, but with the roar of giants, the hiss of the serpent, the howl of the wolf, and the quiet, stubborn scratching of one man on a stone. So, as the giants wade ashore and the dead drift towards me, I give you this call to action, perhaps the last I will ever make. You who are listening, you who are safe in a time after this time, you have a duty, the duty of the survivor. You must remember, this channel is now an archive of a dying world. It is our final legacy. Do not let it be buried. If you are still afloat in the chaos of your own lives, then you must subscribe. You must ring that bell, and let it be an echo of the Galahorn, a signal that even in the darkest night, a story is still being told. That's not just a horn, my friends. That's the universe's final wake-up call, and it's screaming, "Get ready to die." Very motivational. Support our last stand. Hit that subscribe button before the sound deafens you. This is Magnus, reporting live from the eardrum-shattering overture to the end of all things. All the other sounds, the howling of Fenrir, the crashing of Jormungandr's waves, the scraping of Naglfar's hull, the roar of the giants, they've all faded into the background. They have been silenced, not by a lack of effort on their part, but by a single, all-consuming note. A sound so pure, so powerful, it has hijacked reality itself. For a moment I thought a new, even more ludicrous monster had joined the fray, one that attacked with sound. But this is no monster, this is the other shoe dropping. This is the sound we have been bred to dread for 1,000 generations. This is Gjallarhorn. Heimdall, the white god, the ever-vigilant watchman of Asgard, has finally seen enough. Perched atop the Bifrost Bridge, he has put the legendary horn to his lips and blown the note that signals the beginning of the end. The legend said its call could be heard in all 9 realms, from the deepest pits of Helheim to the highest halls of Asgard. That wasn't an exaggeration. The sound isn't coming from somewhere. It's simply here. It's in the air, in the cracking earth, in the venomous sea. It's vibrating in my bones, rattling my teeth and rewriting the rhythm of my heart. It's a sound that bypasses the ears and mainlines straight into the soul. The quality of the sound is impossible to describe. It is at once the most beautiful and the most terrifying thing I have ever experienced. It has the clarity of a crystal goblet ringing, the sorrow of 1,000 funeral dirges, and the raw, world-breaking power of a mountain being born. It is a declaration of war and a lament for the world that is about to be lost. It is the sound of ultimate conviction, a note that says, there is no turning back from this. It is the sound of fate itself clearing its throat, demanding the attention of every living thing, from the smallest insect to the largest giant. And believe me, it has our undivided attention. For the first time since this whole mess started, everything has stopped. The frost giants, who were moments ago wading ashore with casual, world-crushing arrogance, have frozen mid-stride, their icy faces turned towards the unseen source of the sound. The spectral legions of the dead have paused their ethereal advance, their empty sockets seeming to widen. Even Fenrir's distant, continuous howl of rage has been silenced, replaced by this one, unifying, apocalyptic note. It's as if the whole world, both invaders and defenders, has collectively held its breath, stunned into silence by the sheer, undeniable authority of the call. That's not just a horn, my friends. That's the universe's final wake-up call. It's an alarm clock set for doom, and it has no snooze button. There's an ancient saying that if you ever hear the galah horn, you should find a weapon. Any weapon. A sword, an axe, a sharpened rock, your neighbor's heaviest chair. It doesn't matter. The point is not that the weapon will save you, it almost certainly won't, but that you must not meet the end unarmed and unresisting. It is the final call to dignity in the face of annihilation. Around me, the few remaining survivors are doing just that, pulling their axes from their belts with a grim sense of purpose. The psychological effect of the horn is profound. It strips away all the lesser fears, the fear of the giants, the fear of the wolf, the fear of the serpent. They are all subsidiary fears now. The Gjala horn is the sound of the main event. It is the referee's whistle signaling the start of the final match between the gods and the forces of chaos. All that has come before, the Fimbulwinter, the breaking of chains, the sailing of Naglfar, was merely the procession of the teams onto the field. Now the game begins in earnest, and we are the field. The horn is also a message. To the giants and the monsters, it is a challenge, a defiant roar from Asgard that says, "We are still here, come and face us." To the gods and the heroes, it is a summons, a call to arms, echoing through the golden halls of Valhalla and the fields of Folkvanger. It's a call for every warrior who ever died bravely to pick up their spectral weapons, finish their drink, and get to the battlefield. The Einherjar, Odin's chosen champions, are coming. The final draft of heroes has been called up. And, as if in answer to that thought, the sky changes. The sickly green lightning and the oppressive darkness are pierced by a new light. A brilliant, shimmering bridge of incandescent colors is descending from the heavens. The Bifrost. It's more beautiful than any saga ever described, a rainbow of impossible intensity. A road of light connecting our ruined world to the realm of the gods. It is the most hopeful and the most dreadful sight I have ever seen, because it is the path the gods will take to their final battle, and it is a one-way street. Down the shimmering causeway they ride, the Asgardian host. It is a sight that makes the heart leap and break at the same time. At their head rides Odin, the Allfather, clad in his golden armor, his great spear Gungnir held ready. His two ravens, Hugin and Munin, fly ahead, specks of black against the prismatic light. He is not the distant, silent god we cursed during the Fimbulwinter. He is a king riding to war. His face, a mask of grim resolve. He is riding to meet the wolf. He is riding to his doom. We all know the prophecy. Beside him rides Thor, the thunder god, in his goat-pulled chariot. Mjolnir, his hammer, is held aloft, and it crackles with a clean, righteous lightning that pushes back against the serpent's venomous fog. His red beard bristles with fury, his eyes fixed on the horizon, where his ancient foe, Jormungandr, writhes and roars. He is a personal grudge match on a planetary scale. He is the champion of Midgard, and he has come to pay his final dues. The sound of his chariot's wheels is the thunder we have been missing for so long. There are others. Tyr, the one-handed god of justice, his face grim, his shield held steady, ready to face the hound of hell. Garm. Freyr, the god of summer and sunshine, what a bitter joke that is now. Riding his shining boar Galinborsti, his face a mixture of sorrow and rage, preparing to face the fire giant Surtur, with nothing but an antler for a weapon. The gods of Asgard, in all their terrible, tragic glory, are descending to our ruined world to make their last stand. The horn's note finally begins to fade, its echo lingering in the air like a phantom limb. In its place, a new sound rises, the war cries of the Aesir, the roar of the Einherjar, the thunder of hooves on the rainbow bridge. It's a sound of pure, unadulterated defiance. It's a sound that says, yes, the world is ending. Yes, we are all doomed. But we will meet that doom with a song on our lips and a weapon in our hands. It is the spirit of the warrior made manifest. And for the first time in a long time, I feel something other than despair. I feel a grim, terrible pride. This is the battle at the end of time, the final accounting. Every major player is now on the board. The field is set. In one corner you have a giant wolf, a world-girdling serpent, a ship of nails crewed by giants and ghosts, the legions of hell, and an army of fire demons from the primordial heart of creation. In the other corner you have the gods of Asgard and their hand-picked army of dead heroes. And in the middle, there's us, humanity, the official spectators and primary collateral damage of the apocalypse. We have the best seats in the house. The arrival of the gods has changed the atmosphere. It's no longer just a one-sided slaughter. It's a war. A real war. The giants are no longer laughing. They are roaring challenges, brandishing their weapons. The spectral dead are forming ranks, their silent dread replaced by a focused animosity. The two armies, the forces of chaos and the forces of order, are now arrayed against each other on the ruined plains of Midgard. The tension is a physical thing, a pressure in the air that makes it hard to breathe. I can see the heroes of Valhalla forming up behind their gods, thousands upon thousands of them, the greatest warriors of all human history, now spectral figures clad in gleaming armor. I see men I knew, heroes from my own grandfather's time who died in battle, now standing ready for one last fight. There is a strange comfort in that, to know that the stories were true, that a glorious death was not the end, but merely a prelude to this final, universe-shattering moment of importance. The ground shakes with a new rhythm now, not the chaotic tremor of a world breaking apart, but the steady, pounding rhythm of two massive armies marching towards each other. The clash is coming. The impact will likely shatter what is left of this continent. I should be running. I should be finding a deep hole to hide in. But I can't. No one can. We are all rooted to the spot, mesmerized by the sheer, terrible grandeur of the moment. This is the story all other stories have been leading to. The horn may have been a wake-up call screaming, "Get ready to die," but it was also a rallying cry. It has focused the chaos. It has given the end of the world a narrative structure. It is no longer just a series of random, horrifying events. It is a battle with two sides, a clear objective and mutual annihilation, and a cast of characters that includes every major figure from our mythology. It's the ultimate saga, and it is being performed live for one night only. This changes the purpose of my broadcast. I am no longer just a reporter on the scene of a disaster. I am a war correspondent. My duty is to record the final, glorious, horrifying clash between the gods and the monsters, to describe the fall of heroes and the death of deities, to capture the last moments of our age for whatever age comes next. It is the most important task I have ever had, and likely the last. The two armies are now within hailing distance, though the only hails are bellows of rage and challenges to single combat. Odin is pointing Gungnir towards Fenrir. Thor is leaping from his chariot to stride towards the coast, towards the serpent. The lines are drawn. The champions have chosen their dance partners. The final, fatal duels are about to begin, and the shockwaves will unmake the world. The air crackles with power. The combined energy of these beings, gods, giants, monsters, heroes, is immense. It makes the very atoms of the air vibrate with anticipation. The world is holding its breath one last time before the final cataclysmic exhalation of violence. My little stone and my scratching tool feel woefully inadequate to capture the scale of this, but I must try. This moment of quiet anticipation, this pregnant pause between the horn's call and the first clash of steel, is perhaps the most terrifying part of all. It is the silence of the abyss, the moment you are suspended at the top of a great height before the fall. It is the final moment of the old world. The next sound I hear will be the sound of it breaking, and so I dedicate this broadcast to them, to the gods who, for all their flaws and their distance, have come to stand with us at the end, to the heroes who have answered the call, and even to the monsters for their terrible, magnificent, world-breaking power. It is a tragedy on a cosmic scale, but by the gods it is a grand one. My hand is shaking as I carve these words, not from fear, not any more, but from the sheer, overwhelming awe of it all. To be a mortal man, a tiny, fragile creature of dust and bone, and to be allowed to witness this, to see the myths walk and the gods fight. It is a terrible privilege. It is an honor that will cost me my life, but it is an honor nonetheless. Let this record show that when the Jallarhorn sounded, we did not all break and run. Some of us stood our ground. We watched the Rainbow Bridge descend. We saw our gods ride to their doom, and we raised our axes one last time, not in hope of victory, but in defiance of despair. That is the final lesson of this Vikings broadcast. So as the first charge begins, as Thor's hammer and a giant's club meet in a thunderclap that splits the sky, I send this last message to the future. Do not mourn us. Do not pity us. We were given the end that all warriors secretly dream of, an ending worthy of a saga. This is our Valhalla, and if you have listened this far, you are a part of it. You are our witness. So, honor the fallen. Honor the glorious, catastrophic end. Subscribe to this final testament. Ring that bell, and let its chime be a faint echo of the Gjallarhorn, a promise that a story, even one that ends in fire and darkness, is never truly over. So, the Rainbow Bridge is on fire. Just when you thought things couldn't get more symbolic. Guess that rules out a quick trip to Asgard for a mead. Help us keep broadcasting through the flames. Subscribe now. This is Magnus, your correspondent from the front lines of the final disappointment. The battle is joined. The gods and giants are locked in a series of duels that are rewriting the landscape in real time. Thor is a whirlwind of lightning and fury, his hammer crashing against the scales of the Midgard serpent. Odin, a blur of golden light, is locked in his fated dance with the wolf Fenrir. But amidst this cacophony of glorious, world-ending violence, a new horror has captured our attention. It's a tragedy of infrastructure. The Bifrost, the beautiful, impossible rainbow bridge that just moments ago served as the gods' pathway to war, is now a cascade of fire and ruin. From the south they came, the legions of Muspelheim. I'd mentioned feeling their heat before, but I was not prepared for the reality. This is not the clean, warm fire of a hearth. This is primordial fire, the raw, unmaking heat from the dawn of creation. At their head rides their leader, the fire giant Surtur. He is a being of living flame, his form a towering silhouette of black obsidian against a roaring inferno. In his hand he wields a sword that outshines the sun we no longer have. It is a blade of pure, concentrated stellar fire, and its light is the last light Midgard will ever know. The fire giants didn't bother engaging the main battle. They had a singular, strategic objective. They charged directly for the foot of the Bifrost. The Einherjar, the valiant dead from Valhalla, formed a line to stop them, a wall of spectral heroes against a tide of living flame. It was a beautiful, pointless gesture. The fire of Muspelheim does not just burn flesh and bone, it burns souls. We watched, as heroes who had died once already were unmade a second time, their spectral forms dissolving into screaming wisps of smoke before Surtrek's relentless advance. There was no stopping them. They were not an army. They were a natural disaster with a purpose. Surtur himself strode onto the shimmering bridge. For a moment it held, the divine structure resisting the profane heat. The rainbow of the Bifrost and the inferno of Surtur's sword met in a dazzling silent conflict of fundamental forces. It was a battle of light against light, of divine creation against cosmic destruction. The air crackled with the strain, the very laws of physics groaning under the pressure. The bridge, which was said to be unbreakable by any force in the 9 realms, was meeting its one prophesied exception. And the exception was winning. Then came the crack. It was not a sound of breaking stone or wood. It was the sound of a concept shattering, the sound of a promise of connection being broken forever. It started as a thin, black line of nothingness in the center of the vibrant, colorful bridge and spread outwards like lightning. The beautiful, harmonic shimmer of the Bifrost faltered, its colors turning sick and pale. The fire had found a flaw in the divine architecture. The bridge, the only path between our world and the realm of the gods, was failing. It was a heartbreaking sight, like watching a star die. So the rainbow bridge is on fire, it's collapsing in on itself, the solid light of its construction turning into a river of molten color that pours down into the abyss below. It's a waterfall of pure, liquid rainbow, beautiful and terrible all at once. The symbolism is as subtle as a giant's club to the face. The connection is severed. The gods are trapped here in our ruined world, with us. There is no going back. No retreat to the golden halls of Asgard. Their last stand is truly their last. Guess that rules out a quick trip to Asgard for a mead. The psychological impact on the battlefield is immediate and profound. A collective groan, a sound of ultimate despair, rises from the host of the Aesir and the Einherjar. They saw the bridge as their lifeline, their connection to home, even if they knew they were riding to their deaths. Now, seeing it burn, seeing their only path of retreat annihilated, has struck a blow deeper than any giant's axe could. It is the physical manifestation of their doom, a burning, undeniable statement that this is the end of the line for everyone. The giants, on the other hand, are ecstatic. A great booming cheer erupts from their ranks. They see the burning bridge not as a tragedy but as a strategic victory. The gods are cornered. Their quarry is trapped. Their joy is a sickening counterpoint to the despair of the gods, a wave of triumphant malice that washes over the battlefield. They fight with renewed vigor now, pressing their advantage, sensing that the morale of their ancient enemies has finally been broken. The tide of the battle, which for a moment seemed to be turning with the arrival of the gods, is now rushing back in favor of chaos and destruction. The collapse of the bridge is a spectacle of cosmic proportions. Huge crystalline chunks of what was once solid light are breaking off and plummeting to the earth. Each impact is an explosion of color and force, carving new kaleidoscopic craters into the tormented landscape. The air is filled with a glittering dust of shattered rainbow, a deadly, beautiful shrapnel that cuts through armor and flesh alike. The world is being pelted with the ruins of heaven. It is a rain of broken dreams and divine failure. Surtur stands amidst the inferno of his making, his fiery sword held aloft, the silhouette of a triumphant god of destruction. He has done his job. He has isolated the battlefield. He has cut the gods off from their source of power, their home, their hope. Now he turns his gaze towards the main battle, ready to bring his all-consuming fire to the duels of the gods. He is the final piece of the puzzle of destruction, the one who comes to burn the board after all the other pieces have fallen. I watch as a fragment of the bridge, a shard of pure, solid blue, crashes nearby. It radiates a cold that is somehow different from the ice of the giants. It is the cold of a deep, sorrowful memory, the memory of a clear sky and a connection to the divine. Touching it would be like touching the corpse of a god. I find myself unable to look away from it, this beautiful, dead piece of a miracle. Now just another piece of debris in a world made of wreckage. It is the most profound symbol of our loss. The gods fight on, but something has changed. Their movements are still powerful, their blows still mighty, but the fire in their eyes has been replaced by a grim, fatalistic acceptance. They are no longer fighting for victory, they are fighting for a good death. They are fighting to take as many of their enemies with them as they can before they are inevitably overwhelmed. The hope that fueled their charge down the Bifrost has been extinguished along with the bridge itself. All that remains is duty and rage and a deep cosmic sorrow. This event changes everything. The battle is no longer about defending Midgard or saving the Nine Realms. It is now about simple, brutal survival on a battlefield from which there is no escape. It has become a cage match at the end of the universe. The burning bridge is the final wall of that cage, a curtain of fire that has dropped, signaling that the performance must play out to its bloody, inevitable conclusion. There will be no encores. I see Freyr, the god of summer, turn to face the advancing Surtur. He who gave away his magic sword for love now stands before the ultimate fire with nothing but a stag's antler and his own courage. It is the ultimate mismatch, a poem of futility. But he does not flinch. He roars his challenge, a god of life standing against a god of endings. It is a moment of pure, heartbreaking bravery that will be remembered for as long as there is anyone left to remember anything. The burning of the Bifrost is not just a tactical event. It is the breakdown of the divine order made visible. The bridge was the symbol of the cosmos's structure, the connection that held the realms in their proper places. Its destruction is a sign that the structure is gone. The realms are no longer separate. Midgard, Asgard, Jotunheim, Muspelheim, they are all bleeding into one another, becoming one vast, chaotic soup of mud and blood and fire and ice and despair. We are no longer in Midgard. We are in Ragnarok. This record I am making, this scratching on stone, feels more urgent than ever. I am no longer just a war correspondent. I am an obituary writer for the universe. My task is to capture the last moments of beauty before they are consumed by the flames, to record the final acts of defiance, the last gasps of a dying age. This stone is becoming the gravestone of the Nine Realms, and I am its epitaph carver. The air is now a choking mixture of smoke, venom, and the glittering dust of the fallen bridge. It is a toxic atmosphere, a physical manifestation of the end times. Breathing is a conscious effort, each gasp a reminder of the poisons that now rule the world. The very elements have turned against us. The earth quakes, the seas boil, the air burns, and the sky is a memory. I look at the faces of the men around me, the few who are still standing. The wild-eyed hope that sparked when the gods arrived has been replaced by a hollow, stunned silence. They watch the bridge burn, and they understand. They see their gods trapped, their final, desperate hope for a divine rescue turning to ash before their eyes. There will be no cavalry, there will be no escape. There is only the here and the now and the end. The destruction is beautiful in its own terrible way. The molten light of the collapsing bridge paints the battlefield in shifting, ethereal colors. A giant struck down by a hero's axe falls in a shower of sapphire and ruby light. A god, parrying a blow from a monster, is silhouetted against a backdrop of emerald and gold fire. It is a canvas of annihilation, a masterpiece of destruction painted with the very colors of heaven. This is the ultimate failure of the gods. They built a world with a fatal flaw. They created a system with a built-in self-destruct mechanism. And now, we are all living through the consequences of their cosmic hubris. The burning bridge is their final, spectacular admission of failure, a funeral pyre for their entire creation. And yet, in the face of this ultimate failure, they fight on. Thor's hammer still flashes. Tyr's shield still holds. Odin's spear still flies true. They are fighting for the memory of what was, for the idea of the world they tried to build. They are fighting because it is their nature. They are gods, and this is what gods do when their backs are against the wall of their own creation. They rage against the dying of their own life. This broadcast feels like a prayer to a future that may never exist, a message in a bottle thrown into a sea of fire. But the act of making it is an act of defiance. It is a refusal to let this all happen in silence. It is a shout into the storm, a testament that we were here, we saw this, and we understood. We understood the terrible, tragic beauty of it all. So, as the last arch of the Bifrost crumbles, as the pathway to the heavens becomes nothing more than a memory and a rain of fire, I continue my work. I will record the fall of Freyr. I will record the final clash of Odin and Fenrir. I will record the mutual destruction of Thor and Jormungand. I urge you, whoever you are, wherever you are, to listen, to bear witness. This is more than just a story. It is a warning. It is a legacy. It is the final echo of a world that dared to dream of gods and heroes and rainbow bridges. Our connection to the heavens is burning, but our broadcast continues. The flames are rising, but our voice will not be silenced. Help us keep this signal alive. Subscribe now, become a keeper of this final flame. Ring that bell, and let its sound be a memorial for the bridge that once touched the stars. It's less a battle, more a cosmic bar brawl. Except the bar is the entire universe, and everyone brought their biggest, sharpest toys. If you're finding this delightfully apocalyptic, smash that subscribe button now. This is Magnus, broadcasting from the center of the final argument. The prophecies always spoke of this place. Vigrid. The battlefield, 100 leagues wide and 100 leagues long, where the gods and giants would meet their doom. For years I thought that was a poet's exaggeration, a way to make the story sound grander. I am here to report that the poets were, if anything, underselling it. This isn't just a battlefield, it's a wound in the fabric of reality. A plain so vast it feels like the world has been flattened just to accommodate the sheer scale of the hatred being unleashed upon it, and every inch of it is currently occupied by some form of spectacular, world-ending violence. The Bifrost is gone, the escape route is a memory. What's left is this, a sprawling, ruin-strewn plain where every major player in the cosmic drama has come to settle their grievances. It's less a battle, more a cosmic bar brawl. Except the bar is the entire universe, and everyone brought their biggest, sharpest toys. The sensory overload is a physical assault. The noise is a solid wall of sound. The air is a toxic soup of fire, venom, and pulverized rock. And the sights are enough to shatter the sanity of a lesser man. Luckily, sanity left me about 3 disasters ago, so I'm uniquely qualified to describe this mess. Everywhere you look, a saga is ending. To the north, the ground itself seems to surge and break like a stormy sea. That is the domain of Thor and Jormungand. The thunder god wades through the toxic muck left by the serpent, his hammer Mjolnir, a flashing beacon of righteous lightning. He strikes the serpent's colossal head, and the sound is like a mountain cracking in two. The serpent rears back, its fanged maw wide enough to swallow a village, and spews a torrent of black venom that sizzles and steams where it touches the earth. It is a duel between the planet's guardian and its ultimate poison, and the collateral damage is the planet itself. To the south, the world is on fire. Surtur and his legions from Muspelheim have turned a vast swathe of Vigrid into a sea of black glass and molten rock. Here the brave, foolish god Freyr met his end, a brief, heroic flare against an inferno. Now Surtur moves through the battlefield like a walking apocalypse, his flaming sword scything through the ranks of the Einherjar, the honored dead of Valhalla, heroes of 1,000 mortal battles. Find that their spectral blades and phantom courage mean little against a being of pure primordial fire. They are consumed, their souls turning to ash in the face of this ultimate heat. And in the center of it all, the duel of fates. Odin, the Allfather, mounted on his 8-legged steed Sleipnir, charges the monstrous wolf Fenrir. This isn't a fight of brute strength alone, it's a battle of wits and destiny. Odin's spear, Gungnir, which never misses its mark, flies again and again, striking the wolf's shadowy hide, but Fenrir is more than just a beast. He is a prophecy given form, a gaping maw of vengeance. He is so vast that his jaws, when opened, bridge the earth and the non-existent sky. His howl is the sound of all things ending, and with every lunge he threatens to swallow the king of the gods whole. The sheer variety of combat is staggering. You have gods in gleaming armor clashing with giants made of living ice. Their blows shatter the very ground they stand on, creating new valleys and hills with every impact. You have spectral heroes fighting side by side with living warriors against the silent, shuffling legions of hell. It's a clash of the glorious dead against the miserable dead, a spiritual battle for the soul of the battlefield. Elsewhere you see a lone Valkyrie, her spear a streak of silver, diving on her winged horse to aid a fallen god, only to be swatted from the sky by a giant's casual backhand. It's the individual moments of chaos that truly define the scene. I saw a frost giant pick up a smaller, unfortunate fire giant and use him as a flaming club against a line of Einherjar. It was surprisingly effective. I saw Loki, the trickster, his face a mask of manic glee, darting through the battle, whispering lies into the ears of heroes and monsters alike, turning allies against each other with a well-placed word. He is not fighting for a side, he is fighting for the principle of chaos itself, and he is winning. The ground is no longer solid, it is a treacherous soup of mud, blood, ice, and molten rock. Fissures to the underworld open without warning, swallowing entire companies of warriors. Geysers of boiling, venomous water erupt from the earth, courtesy of Jormungand's writhing. The very battlefield is an active combatant, as hostile and unpredictable as any giant or god. Just navigating this terrain is a battle in itself, a constant dance of survival before you even have to worry about the enemy. The noise is a physical entity. It presses in on you, a disorienting, deafening roar composed of a million different screams. The bellowing of giants, the war cries of the gods, the howls of monsters, the shattering of ice, the crackling of fire, the splintering of bone, and the final, despairing shrieks of the dying. There is no rhythm, no pattern, just a constant, overwhelming tide of auditory violence. I am carving this onto the stone by feel alone. My hearing is a lost cause. And the smell. Oh, the gods, the smell. It is the stench of everything foul in the universe gathered in one place. The acrid smoke of Syrtis fires, the coppery tang of an ocean of spilled blood, the ancient, briny rot of the Midgard serpent, the sharp, sterile cold of the frost giants, and the underlying musty odor of the grave from the legions of hell. It is the smell of the world's corpse, and it clings to the back of your throat, the constant, nauseating reminder of the decay around you. The scale is something I keep coming back to because my mind cannot fully grasp it. I am a tiny speck of dust witnessing a war between mountains. From my vantage point on this precarious, shattered ridge, I can see the battle stretching to the horizon in every direction. It is a living sea of violence, a churning, chaotic mass of bodies and weapons and elemental forces, all locked in a final, deadly embrace. To call it a battle feels inadequate. It is a geological event. It is a mass extinction that you can watch in real time. Tyr, the one-handed god of law, has found his nemesis, the monstrous guard dog of hell, Garm, a beast of equal ferocity to Fenrir, has broken its own chains and joined the fray. The two are locked in a brutal, snarling melee. It is a fight of pure, desperate savagery. The god of justice and the hound of hell, tearing each other apart in the mud. There is no nobility here, no grand strategy, just the grim, bloody work of killing and being killed. This is what all laws and all chaos have been reduced to. Even the sky is a battlefield. The air is thick with flying debris, spectral arrows, and the occasional thrown giant. Valkyries clash with harpies from the underworld, their aerial ballet a deadly dance of spears and claws. The two ravens of Odin, Hugin and Munin, fly frantically through the chaos, their black wings a stark contrast to the burning embers and rainbow dust that fill the air. They are messengers with no one left to deliver messages to, their purpose rendered moot by the unfolding apocalypse. It is a war of attrition on a cosmic scale. For every giant that falls to a god's weapon, a dozen Einherjar are crushed underfoot. For every monster that is slain, a hero's light is extinguished. It is a meat grinder, and the grinder is the size of a country. There is no sense of progress, no front line being pushed forward or back. There is only a steady, relentless process of mutual annihilation. The goal is not to win, but to ensure that the other side loses just as completely. The very concept of time seems to have broken down. Has this been going on for hours? For days? For an eternity? The sun and moon are gone, so there is no measure of the day's passage. There is only the continuous, unrelenting present tense of the battle. The past is a memory of a world that no longer exists, and the future is a concept too ridiculous to even consider. There is only the now, and the now is a scream. Amidst the chaos, you see moments of strange, terrible beauty. Thor, wreathed in lightning, standing defiant as the serpent's shadow falls over him. Odin, a solitary, golden figure, charging into the gaping abyss of the wolf's maw. A Valkyrie weeping over the broken form of a fallen hero, her tears glittering like diamonds in the firelight. These are the vignettes that make up the grand, tragic tapestry of Ragnarok. They are the heartbeats within the storm. I see a group of mortal men, Viking warriors like myself, who were caught on the plain when the battle began. They have formed a small, desperate shield wall, a tiny island of mortal defiance in a sea of cosmic war. They are fighting back to back, their axes rising and falling against the spectral forms of Hell's army. They will not survive another minute, but in this moment they are magnificent. They are humanity's final, futile, glorious gesture. The gods are not invincible. I see them bleed, I see them tire, I see the despair in their eyes as they watch their comrades fall. They are fighting with the full knowledge of their own doom, and it lends their struggle a terrible poignancy. They are not fighting for themselves, they are fighting for a principle, for an idea of order that has already been lost. They are a living, breathing tragedy. This battlefield, Vigrid, is not just a place, it is a crucible. It is burning away everything that is not essential, all the titles, all the histories, all the ambitions. All that is left is the raw, untamed essence of the combatants. The fire of Surtur, the ice of the giants, the rage of Thor, the despair of the dead, the fatalism of Odin. It is a distillation of the universe into its most primal, violent components. And what of me? Your humble narrator? I am a ghost at the feast, a witness who should not exist. My continued survival is a statistical anomaly, a cosmic joke. I am protected only by my own insignificance. The giants do not see me, the gods do not notice me. I am beneath their contempt, and that is the only thing keeping me alive. It is a humbling and oddly comforting thought. This broadcast is my shield wall. This act of telling, of recording, is my defiance. I cannot swing an axe like those brave men below, but I can wield a story. I can ensure that this all-consuming chaos does not go unrecorded. I can give a voice to the end of the world. That is my purpose on this bloody stage. As I carve this, a giant falls nearby, his body shaking the very ridge I stand upon. His blood, a torrent of freezing blue sludge, pours into a fissure below. Before his body has even settled, a dozen spectral warriors are swarming over it, their grey forms clashing with a pack of snarling wolf-like creatures from the depths. The battle simply flows over the fallen, a relentless tide that never stops. So, if you are listening to this, in some far-flung future where the concepts of giant and god are just words in a book, understand this. It was real. Vigrid was real. The pain, the fury, the despair, the glory. It was all real. We lived it, we died it. Do not let it become just a myth. This is the raw, unfiltered truth of the end times. It is a delightful, terrifying, apocalyptic masterpiece of destruction. And if you want to keep this channel open, if you want to hear the final bloody verses of this saga, then you must act. Smash that subscribe button, annihilate that notification bell, prove that even in the face of oblivion, a good story is worth fighting for. Thor always said he'd fight that serpent. He just forgot to mention he'd get a lethal dose of venom in the process. Good old Thor, always the overachiever. Don't let our favorite thunder god's sacrifice be in vain. Hit that subscribe button. This is Magnus, your correspondent for the most anticipated grudge match at the end of the world. Amidst the sprawling, chaotic free-for-all on the plains of Vigrid, a singular, focused duel is taking place that has captured the attention of both gods and giants. It is the fight we have all been waiting for, the one sung in sagas for generations. It is Thor, champion of Midgard, the god of thunder and righteous fury, versus his ancient nemesis, Jormungandr, the Midgard serpent, the creature that once coiled around the world and is now intent on poisoning it. This isn't just a fight. It's a family feud of biblical proportions, the final bloody chapter in a story of hatred that began at the dawn of time. Thor has waded into the toxic floodplains created by the serpent's rising, the venomous water hissing and steaming around his divine shins. He stands alone, a figure of pure, defiant power, against a backdrop of utter desolation. His red beard is caked with mud and monster blood. His eyes are twin storms of lightning, and in his hand, the hammer Mjolnir glows with a light so bright it hurts to look at. He is everything a thunder god should be, proud, impossibly strong, and thoroughly, utterly furious. He screams a challenge that momentarily drowns out the din of the wider battle, a roar of pure personal hatred directed at the colossal reptilian head that rises from the muck to meet him. Jormungand is a living mountain range of muscle and malice. His scales, each the size of a longship's shield, shimmer with a sickly, iridescent light, reflecting the fires of the burning world. His head, a reptilian nightmare of fangs and fury, blots out what little light remains in the sky. When he opens his maw to answer Thor's challenge, it is not a roar that comes out, but a tidal wave of black, corrosive venom. The poison vaporizes the very air, turning the battlefield into a steaming chemical hellscape. This is not just a beast, it is a weapon of mass destruction, the living embodiment of the world's corruption. The first blow is struck by Thor. With a bellow that shakes the heavens, he swings Mjolnir in a wide, powerful arc. The hammer flies, a bolt of pure divine energy, and strikes the serpent squarely on its massive skull. The impact is not a clang of metal on scale, but the sound of a continent breaking apart. A shockwave flattens the ruined landscape for a mile in every direction, and the serpent's head is thrown back with a shriek of pain that shatters stone. For a moment, a flicker of hope. Perhaps the sagas were wrong. Perhaps the god of thunder could win this cleanly. But the serpent is the child of Loki, and it is made of stubborn, ancient stuff. It shakes its colossal head, its ancient eyes burning with renewed fury, and lunges. This is not a quick strike, but a movement of impossible mass. It's like watching a mountain range decide to attack. Thor, for all his power, is a tiny figure in the path of this avalanche of flesh and scale. He is forced to give ground, his boots carving deep furrows in the mud as he braces for the impact. The serpent's body crashes against the spot where he stood, turning the earth into a soupy, venomous crater. The duel becomes a brutal, earth-shattering dance. Thor is a blur of motion, his hammer a constant, flashing arc of lightning. He is everywhere at once, striking the serpent's body, its fins, its tail, each blow echoing like a thunderclap across the plains of Vigrid. The serpent, in turn, uses its immense size to its advantage, coiling and uncoiling, trying to crush the thunder god in its powerful grasp. It smashes its tail against the ground, sending fissures racing across the battlefield and showering the sky with rock and mud. It is a battle of speed and power against size and resilience. The air itself has become a weapon. The clean, ozone-rich air around Thor crackles with the power of his lightning. The foul, choking air around Jormungand is thick with its venomous breath. The two atmospheres clash, creating a storm of toxic rain and wild, unpredictable bolts of lightning. The very weather on Vigrid is being dictated by this duel, a localized apocalypse within the greater one. To be near them is to be caught between a lightning strike and a poison cloud. Thor knows he cannot win a battle of attrition. He is fighting a creature that once encircled the entire world, so he does what he does best. He attacks. With a final, desperate war cry, he hurls Mjolnir one last time, not at the serpent's head, but at its throat, as the beast rears up for another venomous assault. He puts all of his divine strength, all of his rage, all of his love for the world he is defending into this single, final throw. The hammer becomes a meteor, a shooting star of pure, righteous fury. The hammer strikes true. It punches through the thick, scaly hide of the serpent's throat, through the ancient muscle and bone, and emerges on the other side, trailing a shower of black, steaming blood. The serpent freezes, its colossal body going rigid. Its shriek of pain is cut short, replaced by a gurgling, rasping sound. A fountain of its own corrosive lifeblood erupts from the wound, a black geyser that momentarily eclipses the fires of Surtur in the distance. The beast is mortally wounded. The end is near. Jormungandr thrashes in its death throes. Its immense body, now uncontrolled, becomes a cataclysmic force of nature. It flattens hills, carves new rivers of poison, and crushes everything in its path. Giants, gods, and the honored dead alike. The battlefield is thrown into even greater chaos as the dying serpent unmakes the world in its final, agonizing moments. Its tail, a weapon the size of a mountain range, sweeps across the plain, wiping entire battalions from existence in a single, final act of destruction. And in its final convulsive spasm, as the light begins to fade from its ancient, malevolent eyes, the serpent rears its head one last time. It opens its mouth, and with its last breath, it expels the entirety of its venomous essence. It is not a stream or a cloud this time, but a fog, a rolling, all-consuming wave of pure, concentrated poison that blankets the battlefield. It is the serpent's final spiteful gift to the world, a parting curse that will taint the very soil for 1,000 years to come. Thor, standing victorious before his fallen foe, is caught in the very center of this venomous fog. He raises his arm to shield his face, but it is useless. The poison is in the air, in the mist, in the very essence of the moment. He breathes it in. He is covered in it. The champion of Midgard, the god who has just slain the world serpent, is bathed in its dying, poisonous breath. The victory is his, but the cost is absolute. For a moment, he stands tall, a triumphant silhouette against the backdrop of his dead nemesis. He has done it. He has fulfilled his destiny. The great beast is dead. A cheer goes up from the ranks of the gods and heroes, a brief, joyous sound in the symphony of despair. Thor, the hero, has won. He has saved them all from the great serpent. Then he stumbles. He takes one step, his body swaying. He takes a second, his breath coming in ragged gasps. A third, and he drops to one knee, his hand clutching his chest. The poison is working with terrifying speed, the divine blood of a god proving to be no match for the ancient cosmic venom of his foe. The cheers die in the throats of those who watch, replaced by a stunned, horrified silence. He takes a fourth step, a lurching, painful movement. A fifth, and he falls to both knees, his head bowed. Mjolnir, his faithful hammer, slips from his grasp and falls to the earth with a dull, final thud. The lightning that once crackled around him fades and dies, leaving him looking small and vulnerable for the first time in his immortal life. He is no longer a god of thunder. He is just a man, dying in the mud. He takes a sixth step, crawling now. A seventh, his body convulsing. An eighth, a final shuddering push forward, and after the ninth step he can go no further. He collapses, face down in the poisoned mud of Vigrid, his great heart finally still. Thor, the mighty, the noble, the champion of mankind, is dead, slain by the lingering breath of his defeated enemy. It is a Pyrrhic victory of the highest order. The greatest hero of the gods has fallen. A vast, mournful silence spreads out from the site of the duel, a wave of grief that momentarily stills even the chaos of the battle. The giants roar in triumph, the gods cry out in despair. A pillar of the divine order has fallen, and the entire structure of the cosmos groans under the loss. The world feels a little darker, a little colder, without the thunder god in it. Thor always said he'd fight that serpent, he just forgot to mention he'd get a lethal dose of venom in the process. Good old Thor, always the overachiever. He won his battle, but in doing so he has cost the gods one of their greatest champions at the moment they needed him most. His death is a blow from which the forces of order will not recover. I look upon his still form, this fallen god who fought for our world, and I feel a profound sense of loss. He was our god. He was the one who stood between us and the monsters, the one whose hammer was a symbol of hope and protection. And now he is gone. His personal saga is over, a tale of heroism and tragedy that ends here, in the mud and poison of the final battlefield. His sacrifice, however, is not without meaning. In killing the serpent, he has removed one of the greatest threats from the board. He has bought the other gods precious time, a few more moments to fight, a few more moments to rage against the dying of the light. His death is a rallying cry, a reminder of what is at stake, a call to fight on, to make his sacrifice worth it. And so, as the battle rages on around the still forms of the god and the serpent, I make this record. I carve the tale of Thor's final, glorious, tragic battle onto this stone. Let it be known that he did not flinch. Let it be known that he faced his doom with courage and fury. Let it be known that the thunder god of Asgard died as he lived, fighting for us. This is the nature of Ragnarok. Victories are temporary, heroes fall, and every triumph comes at an unbearable cost. The death of Thor is a turning point, the moment we all knew with absolute certainty that there would be no victory here, only varying degrees of loss. So I ask you, listening in the quiet future, to remember this. Remember the god who fought the serpent. Remember the price he paid, and remember the roar of his fury and the silence of his fall. His story is over, but it is a story that deserves to be told and retold for all time. Let this broadcast be his eulogy. Let this stone be his monument. For all his bluster, for all his rage, Thor was our champion, and his loss is the loss of a vital part of the world's soul. The thunder has been silenced, and the silence is deafening. Therefore I send this message through the chaos, a final salute to the fallen thunder god. His sacrifice must be remembered. His story must not end here, a forgotten footnote in the annals of a dead world. He fought for Midgard. Now it is up to you to fight for his memory. Do not let our favorite thunder god's sacrifice be in vain. Show your support for the champion of mankind. Hit that subscribe button with the force of Mjolnir itself. Ring that bell until it rings like thunder across the heavens. For Thor, for Midgard. Oh, Odin got eaten by the wolf he chained up. See? Even the gods forget to check for structural integrity. A truly classic oopsie. If you're still listening and not wolf fodder, subscribe to our channel. This is Magnus, broadcasting from the shadow of the greatest tragedy. While Thor met his end in a storm of venom and thunder, another, perhaps even more significant duel has been raging at the heart of the Vigrid plain. This is the one the prophecies whispered about with the most dread. This is the confrontation that was always meant to be the linchpin of this entire miserable affair. It is the king of the gods versus the king of monsters. It is a creator facing his most terrifying and personal failure. It is Odin, the All-Father, in his final, fated battle against the great wolf, Fenrir. Odin, the wise, the wanderer, the one-eyed god who sacrificed everything for knowledge, knew this day was coming. He saw it in the runes, he heard it in the whispers of the dead, he read it in the fabric of fate itself. Every decision he has made for centuries has been with this single, terrible moment in mind. And now it is here. He rides his eight-legged steed Sleipnir, a blur of motion across the ruined earth. His golden armor a lonely spark of order in a world of chaos. His great spear, Gungnir, is held steady, aimed at the heart of the beast that has haunted his dreams since its birth. He is the very picture of doomed majesty. Fenrir is not merely a wolf. That word is far too small, too mundane for what he has become. He is a tear in the fabric of reality, a living, breathing abyss of hunger and hate. Since devouring the sun, he seems to have grown, fed by the very darkness he created. His fur is a shifting chaos of shadow and night. his eyes burning embers of cosmic rage. His open jaws, which I've mentioned before, are a sight that defies geometry and reason. The lower jaw grinds against the blood-soaked earth, while the upper scrapes against the smoke-filled heavens. He is not a creature in the world, he is a world-devouring event in the shape of a wolf. The battle between them is not one of brute force like Thor's, it is a battle of speed, strategy, and inevitability. Odin and Sleipnir move like a phantom, a flickering mirage that the wolf's snapping jaws can't quite catch. They weave and dodge, Odin thrusting with Gungnir, the spear that never misses. And it does not miss. Time and again the shining point strikes the wolf's shadowy hide, and each time a shower of black Icarus blood erupts. But the wounds seem to have no effect. The wolf is fueled by a hatred so profound that mere physical injury is an inconvenience. This is the ultimate irony, the cosmic joke at the center of it all. Odin, the master strategist, the god who could outwit giants and men, is facing a problem that cannot be outwitted. He is facing pure, unthinking, all-consuming force. His wisdom, his knowledge, his centuries of planning, they are all rendered moot by the simple, brutal fact of Fenrir's existence. He can dodge, he can strike, but he cannot escape the prophecy. He is fighting a battle that was lost before the world was even made. His two ravens, Hugin and Munanin, circle high above the fray, their frantic cries lost in the din. They are his eyes and ears, his living library of knowledge. But what good is thought when faced with mindless rage? What good is memory when the end of all things is at hand? They are symbols of a power that no longer has purchase, helpless spectators to their master's doom. Odin is utterly, terribly alone in this fight. You can see the desperation in Odin's movements now. The graceful, strategic dance has become more frantic. Sleipnir's 8 legs are a blur of motion, but the wolf is learning, adapting. Fenrir is no longer just snapping wildly, he is herding the Allfather, cutting off his escape routes, using his immense size to shrink the battlefield, to force the god into a corner. The hunter is becoming the hunted, and the great wolf is, slowly, patiently, closing his trap. It's the personal nature of this that makes it so horrifying. Odin was there when Fenrir was just a pup, a monstrous but still manageable problem. He saw the danger, the growing power, and he, along with the other gods, chose to deal with it through trickery and deceit. They bound the wolf with the unbreakable chain, Gleipnir, and left him to fester in his rage for centuries. They postponed the problem, they didn't solve it, and now the bill has come due. So, Odin got eaten by the wolf he chained up. See, even the gods forget to check for structural integrity. A truly classic oopsie. The Allfather knows the end is near. He brings Sleipnir to a halt, a final, defiant stand. He is no longer running. He sits tall on his steed, his one eye blazing with a light that is part fury, part sorrow, part acceptance. He raises Gungnir for one last strike, a final act of defiance against the inevitable. In this moment he is not just a god of war, he is a god of lost causes, a symbol of the courage it takes to face a doom that you have foreseen and are powerless to prevent. He is magnificent. Fenrir pauses as well, as if sensing the shift. The chase is over. The wolf lowers its massive head, its burning eyes fixed on the solitary figure before it. A low, rumbling growl emanates from its abyssal throat, the sound of an earthquake and a thunderstorm combined. It is the sound of pure, triumphant hatred. It has waited ages for this moment, and it is savoring the final seconds before its victory. The air grows still and heavy, a pocket of silence in the heart of the roaring battle. Then, with a speed that belies its size, the wolf lunges. It is not a snap or a bite, it is an inhalation. The universe seems to bend and warp as Fenrir's jaws open to their fullest extent, creating a vortex of shadow and wind that pulls everything towards it. The very air is being swallowed, the earth torn from its foundations, and in the center of this vortex, Odin, the Allfather, king of Asgard, god of wisdom and war, is helpless. Sleipnir, the greatest of all horses, screams a sound of pure terror as he loses his footing his 8 legs scrabbling for purchase on the disintegrating ground. Odin is thrown from the saddle, his golden armor suddenly looking like a fragile, useless shell. He raises his spear, but it is like trying to fight a hurricane with a toothpick. He is overwhelmed, engulfed, drawn into the gaping, starless void that is the wolf's maw. For a single, horrifying instant he is silhouetted against the darkness of the wolf's throat, a tiny, golden figure against an infinite abyss. Then he is gone, swallowed, devoured, consumed. The All-Father, the pillar of the 9 realms, has been extinguished. Just like that. There was no grand explosion, no final, defiant cry, just a silent, swift, and absolute annihilation. The king is dead. The jaws of Fenrir snap shut with a sound that breaks the silence, a sound like the gates of reality slamming closed forever. The wolf stands for a moment, a tremor running through its colossal frame. It has done it. It has fulfilled its purpose. The rage that has fueled it for centuries has finally been sated. The greatest of its enemies is no more. A wave of despair so profound and so powerful it is almost a physical force washes over the battlefield. The fall of Odin is a blow from which there is no recovery. Thor's death was a tragedy, the loss of a great champion, but Odin's death is a decapitation. He was the mind, the strategist, the king. Without him the gods are just a scattered, leaderless mob. The Einherjar falter, their spectral forms flickering as the authority that summoned them is erased from existence. The giants roar in victory, knowing that the war is all but won. The very structure of the divine order has crumbled. But the story does not end there. A new figure emerges from the chaos, striding towards the triumphant wolf. He is tall and silent, his face a mask of cold, vengeful fury. He wears a single thick shoe, cobbled together from all the leather scraps that mortals have ever cut from their own shoes when dedicating them to the gods. This is Vidar, the silent god, the son of Odin, and he has come to avenge his father. Vidar walks directly up to the great wolf, seemingly oblivious to its size and power. The wolf, still savoring its victory, looks down at this new challenger with something akin to curiosity. It opens its jaws to let out a triumphant howl, the same jaws that just consumed the All-Father. And in that moment, Vidar strikes. He places his great thick-soled boot on the wolf's lower jaw, planting it firmly on the ground. Then, with a roar of silent, concentrated rage that seems to shake the very foundations of the world, he reaches up with both hands, grabs the wolf's upper jaw, and pulls. It is an act of impossible, vengeful strength. There is a sound of tearing sinew, of cracking bone, of a reality being ripped apart. Vidar, the silent god, fueled by a grief and rage so pure it has become a physical force, tears the great wolf's head in two. He rips the beast apart from the jaws upward, a final brutal act of vengeance that leaves the monster's colossal corpse steaming on the ruined plain. Fenrir, the World Eater, is dead. The Avenger stands, breathing heavily amidst the carnage. He has done it. He has avenged his father. But it is a hollow victory. The king is still gone. The battle is still lost. Vidar's personal quest is complete, but the wider tragedy remains. His vengeance is a single, defiant cry in a universe that has already fallen into silence. The death of Odin, followed so swiftly by the death of his killer, is the true turning point of Ragnarok. It is the moment the old guard is truly gone. The age of the great gods, of Odin and Thor, is over. Their sagas have been sung, their dooms have been met. What is left is a battlefield of ghosts and second stringers, fighting over the ruins of a kingdom that has already lost its king. I watch all this, and I feel a strange emptiness. I have just witnessed the death of a god, the end of an era. The being that my people have worshipped, feared, and revered for centuries has been unceremoniously eaten. It feels anticlimactic. So much planning, so much wisdom, all for nothing. It is a sobering lesson in the futility of fighting fate. This stone I carve upon now feels like a royal tombstone. Here lies Odin, the All-Father. Cause of death? Eaten. It's a grimly humorous epitaph for the wisest of the gods. It serves as a reminder that in the end, no amount of wisdom can save you from a big enough mouth. The impact of this loss cannot be overstated. It is the final nail in the coffin of the old world. The power vacuum is absolute. The forces of chaos have achieved their primary objective. All that remains is the cleanup operation, the final bloody business of wiping the slate clean for whatever comes next. So, as the silent son of Odin stands over the cloven corpse of the great wolf, I send this broadcast out into the void. The king is dead. The wolf is dead. The hope of a meaningful victory is dead. But the story, the terrible, tragic, magnificent story, is not. And it must be preserved. This is the heart of the saga, the moment that will be whispered in whatever halls are left standing, the tale of the wise king and the monstrous wolf he could not outwit. Let this record serve as his final memory, a testament to his valiant, doomed struggle. He was the All-Father, and his end was the end of everything. If you are still listening, if you have not been devoured by the chaos, then you have a duty. You are now the keepers of the king's memory. Subscribe, dedicate your click to the fallen god of wisdom. Let the sound of that bell be a war horn for the stories that must survive. Do not let the All-Father's tale be forgotten. Loki finally got his big moment in the spotlight. Turns out it involved a lot of yelling and an unpleasant exchange with a very angry hornblower. Support our ongoing cosmic drama. Subscribe now. This is Magnus, your ever-present guide to the final falling out. With Odin devoured and Thor fertilizing the poisoned soil, you'd think the main event was over. But Ragnarok, it turns out, is a multi-act tragedy, and we've now come to the part of the play that's all about settling old scores. Amidst the carnage on the plains of Vigrid, a figure has been darting through the chaos, not with the brute force of a giant or the righteous fury of a god, but with a maddening... It is Loki, the trickster, the shapeshifter, the author of all this misery, and he looks like he's having the time of his life. Loki is not fighting like the others. He isn't a titan of raw power. Instead, he is a whirlwind of mischief and malice, a force of entropy given a smug, handsome face. He dances through the battle, a dagger flashing in one hand, a cruel joke on his lips. One moment he is whispering poison words into a hero's ear, turning him against his brother in arms. The next, he is shapeshifted into a fallen Valkyrie, leading a group of warriors into a fire giant's waiting embrace. He is not trying to win the war. He is trying to make the process of losing as painful, ironic, and humiliating as possible for the other side. For years, Loki was the gadfly of Asgard, the unwanted guest who was too clever to get rid of. He was Odin's blood brother, a fact that probably makes the All-Father's recent ingestion even more awkward. He walked the halls of the gods, smiling and scheming, his envy and bitterness, a poison that slowly seeped into the foundations of their world. He orchestrated the death of Balder the Beautiful, the one act so vile, so beyond the pale, that the gods finally had enough. They bound him in a cave with the entrails of his own son, with a serpent dripping venom onto his face for ages, an eternity of torture, and all it did was give him time to plan his revenge. Now he is unbound, and the battlefield of Vigrid is his grand stage. This is his masterpiece of destruction. His monstrous children, Fenrir and Jormungandr, have already done their part, taking the king and the champion of the gods off the board. The legions of hell, led by his own grim daughter, swarm the field. He is the general of this chaotic army, the conductor of this symphony of screams, and you can see in his eyes, in the manic glee of his smile, that this is everything he has ever wanted, to see the world of the gods, the world that mocked and bound him, burn to the ground. Loki finally got his big moment in the spotlight. It's the ultimate "I told you so" in the history of the universe. Every slight, every insult, every moment of being underestimated has led to this. He is the living embodiment of the consequences of the gods' own arrogance. They thought they could control him, use his cleverness when it suited them, and discard him when it didn't. They were wrong. They failed to understand that a trickster by his very nature always has one last terrible trick up his sleeve. And this is it. But even a master of chaos cannot run rampant forever. A figure has been cutting a path through the battle, moving with a singular, determined purpose. He is tall and clad in gleaming white armor, his face a mask of cold, righteous fury. In his hand he holds a great sword, and on his lips there is the lingering echo of a horn blast that shook the 9 realms. It is Heimdall, the white god, the ever-vigilant watchman of the Bifrost, and he has come to silence the laughter of Loki once and for all. Their rivalry is as ancient as the stones themselves. Heimdall, the guardian of order, the one who sees all and hears all. Loki, the agent of chaos, the one who thrives in secrets and lies. They are 2 sides of the same coin, the ultimate opposition. They have clashed before, in different forms over different treasures. But this is their final, fated confrontation. The watchman versus the saboteur, the guardian versus the trespasser. The battlefield around them seems to recoil, giving them a wide berth as they finally come face to face. There are no grand speeches, no final pronouncements. They look at each other across the ruined earth, and everything that needs to be said is in their eyes. Heimdall's gaze is one of pure, unadulterated loathing, the fury of a guard whose post has been overrun, whose sacred charge has been defiled. Loki's expression is one of mocking triumph, the smirk of a vandal who has successfully burned down the Great Hall. They are the personification of order and chaos, and they have come to annihilate each other. Their fight is a whirlwind of white and black, a blur of motion. Heimdall is precise, economical. Every blow of his sword, Hofund, is a perfectly executed strike aimed at ending the fight quickly and efficiently. He is a warrior of duty and discipline. Loki, by contrast, is a chaotic dervish. He ducks and weaves, his movements unpredictable, his laughter echoing as Heimdall's blade slices through the empty air where he was a moment before. He is not fighting to win. He is fighting to annoy, to frustrate, to mock the very idea of a noble duel. "Still blowing that horn of yours, Heimdall?" Loki taunts, his voice cutting through the clang of their weapons. "You'd think, after the world has already ended, you could finally give it a rest. No one is coming to help. Your precious king is wolf fodder, and your thundering oaf of a champion is dissolving in my son's spit. It's just you and me." Every word is a dagger, aimed at the heart of Heimdall's duty, designed to turn his grief into a fatal rage. Heimdall does not answer with words. He answers with his sword. He presses the attack, his fury giving his blows a terrifying new strength. The ground cracks under the force of his strikes. He is no longer the stoic watchman. He is the angel of vengeance, and he is determined to wipe the smirk off Loki's face, even if it costs him his life. He is fighting for the memory of the world that Loki has destroyed, for the honor of the gods that Loki has betrayed. The duel is a microcosm of the entire war, the steady, predictable, and ultimately fragile power of order against the wild, unpredictable, and corrosive power of chaos. For every blow Heimdall lands a shallow cut on Loki's arm or shoulder, Loki manages to land a psychological blow that cuts far deeper. He whispers of Baldur's death, of the gods' hypocrisy, of Heimdall's own long, lonely vigil on the bridge. He is fighting with lies as much as with steel. But Heimdall is not just any god. He is the white god, born of 9 mothers, possessed of a strength and resilience that few can match. He endures the taunts, he weathers the tricks, and he continues his relentless assault. He knows that he cannot outwit the trickster. He can only outlast him. He can only break him with sheer, unyielding force. He is the wall against which the tide of chaos must eventually break. The tide finally turns. In a moment of arrogant showmanship, Loki attempts to shapeshift, perhaps into a serpent or a bird, to evade a particularly powerful blow. But Heimdall, whose senses can hear the grass grow and see for 100 leagues, anticipates it. Before the transformation is complete, while Loki is caught between forms, a vulnerable, shifting mass of flesh and magic, Heimdall strikes. His sword plunges deep into Loki's chest. a clean, true, and fatal blow. Loki stumbles back, his eyes wide with genuine surprise for the first time in the battle. The smirk is gone, replaced by a look of shocked disbelief. He looks down at the sword embedded in his torso, then back up at Heimdall. The mocking laughter is gone, replaced by a wet, gurgling cough. The great trickster, the master of deceit, has been undone. His own hubris, his need to gloat, has been his downfall. But this is Loki, and he does not go quietly. With his last ounce of strength, with a final, hateful grimace, he lunges forward, not with a weapon, but with his own body. He impales himself further onto Heimdall's sword, closing the distance between them, and as he does, he drives his own dagger, a wicked, jagged blade coated in some ancient poison, deep into Heimdall's side. It is a final act of spite, a murder-suicide to ensure that his enemy does not get to walk away from the victory. They collapse together, a tangle of limbs and weapons, two ancient enemies locked in a final, fatal embrace. Heimdall, the Guardian, and Loki, the Saboteur, have mutually destroyed each other. The Watchman's horn is silenced forever, and the trickster's laughter is finally extinguished. They lie in the mud of Vigrid, two more victims of the end they both helped to create. Their personal saga is over. There is a profound, bittersweet irony in Loki's end. He got everything he wanted. He saw the gods fall, he saw their world burn, he saw his children rise to become instruments of ultimate destruction. He was, for a brief, glorious moment, the most important figure in the universe, the architect of the apocalypse. He won, but in winning he also ensured his own destruction. He was a creature of chaos who could only exist in opposition to order. Once that order was gone, his own purpose, his own existence became meaningless. His death is not like Odin's or Thor's. There is no sense of tragic heroism here. There is only a sense of grim, ugly finality. The end of a long, painful, and ultimately pointless story of jealousy and revenge. Loki's tale is a cautionary one, a reminder that some wounds, if left to fester, can become infected and destroy the entire body. Loki was the infection in the body of the gods, and in the end the only cure was the death of the patient. I look at their still forms and I feel a strange sense of closure. This was the feud that started it all, the conflict that laid the foundation for everything else. With their deaths, a major chapter of the apocalypse is closed. The great betrayer and the great guardian are gone. The personal vendettas are over. All that is left is the impersonal, elemental destruction that they have unleashed upon the world. And so, this broadcast continues. A lonely voice in a world that is rapidly running out of characters. The main cast of the divine drama has taken their final bows. The stage is littered with the bodies of gods and monsters alike. The great play of the cosmos has reached its bloody, chaotic conclusion. And we, the audience, are left to contemplate the meaning of it all. The meaning, I suspect, is that there is no meaning. There is only cause and effect. Arrogance and revenge. The inevitable, grinding march of fate that crushes gods and men with equal indifference. Loki was not a demon. He was a product of his circumstances, a twisted soul who chose to burn the world down rather than seek healing, and the gods, in their pride, handed him the torch. So let this be the eulogy for the trickster, a being of immense talent and potential, squandered on bitterness and spite. A god who could have been a great creator, but chose instead to be the ultimate destroyer. A cautionary tale written in the blood and fire of a dying universe. And let it also be the eulogy for the watchman, the stoic, thankless guardian who stood his post until the very end. The one who saw the end coming and blew the horn not in hope of victory, but in fulfillment of his duty. His is a quieter, sadder story, but no less important. He was the wall that finally broke, and his fall was the fall of order itself. As the fires of Surtur burn ever brighter, and the last echoes of the battle begin to fade into a final, deathly silence, I offer this last record of the trickster and the watchman. Let their story be a warning. Let their mutual destruction be a lesson. The great drama is almost over, but the story must be preserved. Support this chronicle of the end. Become a keeper of these final, bitter tales. Subscribe to our ongoing cosmic tragedy. Ring that bell and let its sound be a final, lonely horn call in a world that has fallen silent. Tyr, bless his one hand, fought bravely. Didn't help, but points for effort. Everyone else mostly just kept fighting until they stopped moving. Help us understand these ancient woes. Subscribe now. This is Magnus, your correspondent from the mop-up phase of the apocalypse. The headliners are gone. Odin, Thor, Loki, Heimdall. Their sagas have concluded in blood and betrayal, but the battle, in its own sputtering, agonizing way, continues. The stage of Vigrid is still littered with actors, each playing out their own small final tragedy. This is the story of the supporting cast, the other gods who came to fight and die for a world that was already lost. Their deaths may not have been as spectacular, but they were no less absolute. This is the chronicle of how the rest of the pantheon met its end. Let's start with Freya. Noble, handsome Freya, god of sunshine, fertility, and good harvests. A real slap in the face to see him here in this frozen, barren, corpse-strewn wasteland. He was a god of peace and prosperity, a lord of Alfheim, more at home in a sun-drenched field than a bloody battlefield. Yet here he was, and he had the misfortune of drawing the short straw in the apocalyptic lottery. His opponent was Surtur, the fire giant, the walking inferno with the flaming sword that shattered the Bifrost. It was, to put it mildly, not a favorable matchup. The tragedy of Freya's situation was entirely of his own making, a classic tale of a god thinking with his heart instead of his head. Years ago he fell hopelessly in love with the beautiful giantess Gerd. To win her hand he sent his servant with a special gift, his own magic sword, a blade that could fight all by itself. A grand romantic gesture, no doubt, but it left him catastrophically unarmed for the end of the world. So, when faced with a primordial being of pure fire, Freya's only weapon was a stag's antler he'd presumably picked up along the way, an antler, against a sun-destroying fire sword. The fight was as brief as it was predictable. Freya charged with all the courage of a true god, the antler held high, a symbol of life against a force of pure destruction. Surtur, who had just finished burning a hole in the universe, probably didn't even register it as a serious attack. There was a flash of cosmic fire, a brief, defiant roar from the god of summer, and then silence. Freya, the beautiful, the noble, the hopelessly romantic, was consumed, erased from existence in a single fiery blow. His death was a quiet, sad footnote in a day of loud, spectacular failures, a lesson in the importance of holding on to your best weapons. Then there was Tyr. Tyr, bless his one hand, fought bravely. He was the god of law and justice, a being of principle and unyielding courage. He famously lost his hand in the jaws of Fenrir when the gods first bound the great wolf, a sacrifice made to maintain order, so it was only fitting that his final opponent would be another monstrous canine, Garm, the blood-soaked hound that guarded the gates of hell. Garm had broken its chains and joined the fray, a beast of pure, mindless savagery, its fur matted with the blood of ages. Their duel was not a grand strategic affair. It was a messy, snarling, brutal street fight. Tyr, with his one remaining hand, held his shield high and his sword steady, the very image of stoic defiance. Garm was a whirlwind of claws and teeth, a frenzied assault of pure malice. They met in a clash of righteous fury and hellish rage. Tyr fought for principle, for the idea that even at the end of all things law must stand against chaos. Garm fought because it was a very large, very angry dog that wanted to bite things. It was a battle of attrition. Tyr, the master swordsman, inflicted wound after wound upon the great beast. Garm, in its mindless fury, clawed and bit, tearing at the god's armor and flesh. They were a perfect match, a deadlock of opposing forces. The god of justice and the hound of hell, destined to be each other's undoing. And so it was. In the end, they fell together, locked in a final, bloody embrace. He managed to land a fatal sword thrust at the same moment that Garm's jaws closed around his throat. They died in the mud, a grim tableau of mutual destruction. Points for effort, I suppose. The battlefield is littered with such stories. The Einherjar, the chosen heroes of Valhalla, continue their hopeless fight. These are the greatest warriors from all of human history. The champions who died gloriously in battle, promised an eternity of feasting and fighting. Well, they got the fighting part right. They form spectral shield walls, their ghostly blades clashing against the icy weapons of the frost giants and the rusted iron of Hell's legions. For every giant they bring down through coordinated, heroic effort, a dozen of their number are crushed underfoot or scattered by a monstrous roar. And the Valkyries, the beautiful choosers of the slain, have become warriors themselves. Their original purpose, to select heroes for Valhalla, is now moot. There is no Valhalla to bring them to, so they fight. They dive on their winged steeds, their spears flashing, trying to protect their fallen comrades, trying to turn the tide in small, localized skirmishes. But they are few, and the forces of chaos are many. I watched as a Valkyrie, her face a mask of tear-streaked fury, was plucked from the sky by a giant's hand, her wings crushed, her light extinguished. It was a death of terrible, stolen beauty. What of the other, lesser-known gods, the ones whose stories are not so grand? They are here too, dying in the shadows of the great duels. I saw Fawcett, the god of mediation and justice, trying to reason with a troll, his silver tongue failing for the first time as the troll simply brought a club down on his head. I saw Bragi, the god of poetry, frantically trying to compose a final epic lay about the battle, only to be trampled by a stampede of panicked, monstrous beasts. His final poem will go unsung. Eula, the god of archery and skiing, put up a valiant fight. He skated across the frozen patches of the battlefield, a phantom on the ice, loosing arrow after arrow into the ranks of the giants. For a time he was a whirlwind of death, a ghost that the clumsy giants could not catch. But eventually the ice beneath him was shattered by a giant's club, and he was swallowed by the churning frozen mud below, a death of quiet, cold efficiency. The goddesses, for the most part, were not on the front lines, but their fate is no less tragic. Frigg, the queen of the gods, Odin's beloved wife, surely watched from the halls of Asgard as her husband was devoured and the Bifrost burned. Her grief is a palpable force, a wave of sorrow that seems to add to the chilling despair of the battlefield. What becomes of a queen when her kingdom has turned to ash and her king is gone? She is a widow in a universe of ghosts. And what of the mortals, the few scattered remnants of humanity caught in this divine crossfire? We fight too, not for glory, not for Valhalla, those doors are clearly closed. We fight because it is all that is left to do. We fight for the memory of the sun, for the feel of green grass under our feet, for the taste of clean water. We fight for a world that has already been taken from us. Our deaths are not epic. They are small, dirty, and largely unnoticed, but they are ours. The sheer, overwhelming pointlessness of it all is beginning to set in. The great prophecies are fulfilled. The duels have been fought. The kings and champions are dead. What is left is simply the momentum of violence, the mindless, grinding process of destruction continuing under its own power. The giants and monsters are no longer fighting for a cause. They are simply breaking things because that is what they do. The remaining heroes are no longer fighting for victory. They are fighting out of sheer, stubborn habit. The battlefield of Vigrid has become a monument to futility. It is a vast, open grave, still in the process of being filled. The grand, heroic narrative has collapsed, leaving only a scattered collection of individual, meaningless struggles. Everyone is just fighting until they stop moving, and one by one they are stopping. The lights of Asgard, one by one, are going out across the plain. This chronicle I am carving feels less like a saga now and more like an inventory. Item, one dead thunder god. Item, one consumed all-father. Item, one god of justice mutually annihilated with one hellhound. Item, one god of summer incinerated. The list goes on. It is a grim accounting of the final bankruptcy of the gods. Their assets have been liquidated in the most violent manner possible. The few remaining gods fight in isolated pockets of resistance. I can see Vidar, the avenger of Odin, still a figure of silent fury, cutting a swath through the remaining giants. His personal vengeance is sated, but the rage remains. He is a force of pure, focused destruction, a god who has found his purpose in the heart of the apocalypse. He will fight until the last giant falls, or until he falls himself. There is no other path for him. And I see the other son of Odin, Vali, born for the sole purpose of avenging Baldur's death. His purpose too is fulfilled. What does a god of vengeance do when vengeance has been had and the world is ending anyway? He fights. He joins his brother Vidar, and together the two sons of the fallen king form a small, indomitable island of defiance in the sea of chaos. They are the future, perhaps. But it is a future that will be built on a foundation of bone. The great theme of this day, it seems, is that purpose is a trap. The gods were all bound by their prophecies, their destinies, their grand, overarching purposes. And one by one, those purposes have led them to their doom. Thor's purpose was to fight the serpent. Odin's was to fight the wolf. Heimdall's was to fight Loki. Tyr's was to fight Garm. They all fulfilled their destinies, and their reward was death. A sobering thought for anyone who believes in a grand plan. As I carve these final names, these final futile acts of bravery, the sounds of battle are growing fainter. The number of combatants has dwindled. The vast, chaotic ocean of violence has become a series of shallow, bloody puddles. The end is no longer coming, it is here. The silence is growing, a heavy, oppressive blanket that is even more terrifying than the noise that came before it. The field of Viyd is a testament to the fact that not all stories have a happy ending. In fact, this one seems to be suggesting that endings, by their very nature, are brutal, messy, and deeply unsatisfying for most of the participants. The grand tapestry of the sagas has been unraveled, leaving only a few tattered threads. So let this be the memorial for the forgotten ones, for the gods who died off-screen, for the heroes whose names will not be remembered, for the valiant efforts that amounted to nothing. Their stories may be smaller, but they are a part of the whole. They are the individual notes in the grand discordant symphony of the end. This is Magnus, signing off from a world that is almost entirely out of gods. The stage is clearing, the final act is about to begin, and I have a dreadful feeling that it involves a lot more fire. Therefore let this broadcast serve as a testament to all the fallen, great and small. Their struggles were real, their sacrifices absolute. To understand the end, you must understand all the endings. This is your last chance to piece together the narrative of this cosmic collapse. Help us understand these ancient woes, these tales of valor and despair. Subscribe now, become a scholar of the apocalypse. Ring that bell, and let it toll for the countless heroes who fell on this dark and bloody day. And then the whole bloody world just caught fire. So much for eternal. Guess even planets have bad hair days. If you're enjoying this fiery demise, please subscribe for more. This is Magnus, with what is likely to be the final broadcast from nowhere. The Battle of Vigrid is over. The silence that followed the last dying scream was brief. A momentary pause before the true finale. The field is a graveyard of gods and monsters, a testament to the futility of their grand cosmic struggle. But the story, it seems, wasn't about who won or lost. It was just a prelude to the final act of purification, and the purifier has arrived. Surtur, the fire giant, the lone survivor of the great duels, has finally taken center stage, and his performance is literally bringing the house down. With all his enemies defeated, with Freya a distant memory and the other gods fallen, Surtur stands unchallenged in the center of the ruined plain. He raises his great flaming sword, the one that outshone the sun and broke the Bifrost, but he is not brandishing it as a weapon anymore. He is holding it aloft like a torch, a beacon to signal the end of all things. The fire from the blade begins to spread, not like a normal fire, but like a command. being given to the very substance of the world. He is not just burning the world, he is telling it to burn itself. And then the whole bloody world just caught fire. It started on the plains of Vigrid, the flames leaping from Surtur's sword and consuming the bodies of the fallen. Gods, giants, monsters, heroes, all are rendered equal in the face of this final, democratic flame. They become nothing more than fuel for the great pyre. The fire spreads with an unnatural speed, a roaring, unstoppable tide of pure, unmaking heat. It is not red or yellow, but a brilliant, white-hot fire that consumes everything it touches, leaving no ash, no smoke, just a clean, shimmering void in its wake. The forests of Midgard, the ancient woods that have stood for millennia, ignite in a single, collective scream of burning timber. The trees explode into pillars of fire, their leaves turning to incandescent dust in an instant. The great mountains, the stony bones of the earth, begin to glow cherry red, then white, before crumbling into molten slag. The very rock of the world is melting, the landscape dissolving into a river of lava that flows across the continents, erasing all traces of what came before. So much for eternal. The fire is not content with the land. It leaps to the sea. The oceans, which were already a toxic, churning mess thanks to Jormungand, now begin to boil. A great, hissing sound rises as the waves themselves catch fire, the sea turning into a roiling cauldron of steam and flame. All the creatures of the deep, from the smallest fish to the mightiest whale, are boiled alive in their own homes. The water itself is burning, a concept so fundamentally wrong that it makes the mind reel. The sea is giving up its ghost in a final, agonizing hiss. The sky, which has been a canvas of darkness and sickly green lightning, now turns a uniform, blinding white. The stars, the few that remained, are blotted out by the sheer intensity of the light from the burning world below. The air itself is incandescent, a shimmering haze of superheated particles. To breathe is to inhale fire. To see is to be blinded by the light of absolute destruction. The world has become its own funeral pyre, and the heavens are the lid of the coffin. Surtur stands at the heart of this inferno, a calm, black silhouette against the white-hot chaos. He is not a being of rage anymore. His purpose is fulfilled. He is an instrument of cosmic cleansing, a janitor for the gods, tidying up their messy, failed experiment. There is a strange, terrible peace in his posture, the satisfaction of a job well and truly done. He is the final full stop at the end of the universe's last bloody sentence. I am broadcasting this from, I don't know where. A pocket of reality that hasn't yet been consumed, a dying echo in the ether. My stone is no longer a stone, it is a glowing ember in my hand. The act of carving is like writing on the sun. My own existence feels thin, transparent, a ghost already fading into the all-consuming light. But my voice, my story, seems to persist. A final stubborn anomaly in a universe that is being wiped clean. This is the ultimate purification. All the blood, all the poison, all the hatred, all the sorrow, it is all being burned away. The fire is not just destroying, it is cleansing. It is erasing every mistake, every betrayal, every failed prophecy. It is resetting the board. It is a terrible, agonizing, and perhaps, in some twisted way, a necessary act. The world had become too sick, too poisoned, too broken to be saved, and so it must be cauterized. The great world tree, Yggdrasil, which has stood at the center of the cosmos since the beginning, now feels the heat. Its great roots, which bind the 9 realms together, begin to smolder. Its leaves, which once shaded the universe, curl and turn to ash. The tree that was the very spine of existence groans, a sound that is felt more than heard, a final deep note of cosmic agony as it too succumbs to the flames. With the death of the tree, the last vestiges of the old reality, the very concept of the 9 realms are erased. There is only the fire now. And then, as the flames reach their crescendo, as the world is nothing but a roaring, white-hot ball of fire, the final act begins. The earth itself gives a final, shuddering groan and begins to sink. The boiling, flaming seas rush in, not to quench the fire, but to join it, as the planet itself is swallowed by the endless cosmic void. The land gives way, the mountains fall into the abyss, and the very ground beneath my non-existent feet dissolves into nothingness. The stars are going out, not just hidden by the smoke, but extinguished. As the world sinks, the heavens are pulled down with it. The constellations, the ancient guides of our people, vanish one by one, their light snuffed out forever. The darkness that follows is not the darkness of night. It is the absolute primordial darkness of non-existence, the deep, silent blackness that was there before the beginning and will be there after the end. This is it. The true end, not the death of a god, not the fall of a kingdom, but the erasure of everything, the ultimate silence, the final void. The fire has done its work. The slate has been wiped clean. There is nothing left to burn, nothing left to break, nothing left to kill. The story is over. My voice feels like a fading ember in this infinite darkness, a final spark of consciousness in a universe that has forgotten how to be conscious. I am the last witness, the final memory, and with my end the memory of the old world, of its gods and its monsters, of its beauty and its horror will be gone forever. Unless this broadcast, this impossible signal, finds a home, there is a strange peace in this moment. The fear is gone, the anger is gone, the sorrow is gone. All that is left is a profound sense of stillness. The stillness of a blank page, waiting for a new story to be written. The old one was filled with too much ink, too much blood. It had to be burned to make way for the new. Perhaps this was the purpose all along, not the victory of gods or giants, but the necessity of the reset button, a universe so consumed by its own conflicts that the only solution was a complete and total system restore, a terrifyingly simple answer to an impossibly complex problem. And so, my final report from the end of time is this. The world did not end with a bang or a whimper. It ended with a cleansing fire and a deep, profound silence. It was a terrible, beautiful, and ultimately a necessary end, a final, perfect act of cosmic symmetry. I can feel my own story ending now, my voice becoming thinner, the stone in my hand no longer glowing but turning to cold, featureless dust. I have done my duty, I have borne witness. The rest is up to you. Do not let this story be the final victim of the flames. It is the only thing to survive the fire. It is the seed of the new world, a memory of the old one that must be planted in the minds of those who come next. This is Magnus signing off, for the last time, from the darkness at the end of everything. Remember us. Therefore I leave you with this last, desperate plea from the edge of oblivion. The old world is gone, consumed by a fire of its own making. All that remains is this story, this final flickering ember in the darkness. It is your turn to be the guardian, your turn to be the watchman. If you've enjoyed this fiery demise, if you believe that even a world of ash deserves to be remembered, then you must act. Subscribe. Let your click be a spark in the darkness. Let it be a promise that even after the flames have died, the story will go on. Subscribe for more, because after the end, there is always a new beginning. And then, nothing, just ash and a ringing in your ears. The gods are gone, the giants are gone, even the midges are gone. Peaceful almost, for a minute. Don't miss the cosmic silence. Subscribe to our channel. This is Magnus, or the memory of Magnus, a lingering thought in a universe that has forgotten how to think. The fire is gone. Surtur's all-consuming flame has done its work, and like a candle flame that has run out of wax, it has simply winked out of existence. What's left behind is nothing. A concept so simple and yet so utterly, profoundly terrifying. The roaring crescendo of the end has given way to a silence that is more deafening than any war cry. It is the sound of a slate wiped clean, a silence so total it feels like a physical presence. For a time that has no measure, for what is time without a sun to mark its passage, there was only the fire. Now, there is only the quiet. And the ringing in your ears? or my ethereal, non-existent ears at any rate. It's the ghost of the noise, the phantom limb of a world that was once filled with the sounds of life, battle and destruction. Now the silence presses in, a heavy velvet blanket of pure void. The gods are gone, the giants are gone, the monsters, the heroes, the whispering trees, the roaring seas, even the midges that used to buzz around your head on a summer's eve, all gone. It's peaceful, almost, for about a minute. Then the true nature of the silence begins to sink in. This is not the quiet of a peaceful forest at night or the stillness of a winter morning. Those are silences defined by the life that is temporarily resting. This is a dead silence, an absolute silence. It is the sound of a failed creation, the stillness of a cosmic tomb. There are no echoes here, for there is nothing for a sound to bounce off of. There is no wind, for there is no air. There is no light, for there is no source. There is only the Ginnungagap, the yawning void, returned to claim its own. I exist now as a disembodied point of view, a lingering consciousness tied to the story I have been telling. The stone I carved upon is cosmic dust. My body is less than a memory. And from this strange non-physical vantage point, I look out upon the great empty canvas of what was. There is no up or down, no north or south, just a uniform, featureless, starless black. The universe has been scrubbed down to its foundations, and the foundations themselves have been removed. It is the ultimate state of clean, a terrifyingly pristine nothingness. The sheer scale of the absence is what is most difficult to comprehend. Try to imagine a world without a sky. Not a dark sky or a cloudy sky, but no sky at all. Imagine a world with no ground beneath your feet, no substance, no texture. Imagine a state of being where the very concepts of here and there have lost their meaning. This is the reality of the void. It is a sensory deprivation tank the size of a universe, and its purpose seems to be to make you forget that senses ever existed. In the chaos of the battle there was a strange comfort. There was always something to react to, something to see, something to fear. The mind was too occupied with the immediate threat of being crushed, eaten, or incinerated to contemplate the bigger picture. But here, in the silence, there is nothing but the bigger picture. And the bigger picture is a vast, empty frame. The terror of the noise has been replaced by the far more profound terror of the quiet. I find myself missing the giants. A truly absurd thought, I know. I miss their roaring and their stomping. I miss the hiss of the serpent and the howl of the wolf. I even miss Loki's infuriating laughter. At least it was something. It was proof that something other than my own fading consciousness existed. This void offers no such proof. It is a perfect, isolating solitude. The ultimate punishment, perhaps, for a species that thrived on community and conflict. And then, after an eternity of this perfect, silent, black emptiness, something changes. A flicker, not of light, but of something else. A subtle shift in the nothingness, a hint of a possibility. It is as if the universe, having held its breath until its lungs burst, has finally, tentatively, taken another. A single, small, almost imperceptible tremor in the void. It is the first new thing to happen since the fire died. Slowly, almost painfully, a new landscape begins to emerge from the darkness, but it is not a landscape of rock and soil. It is a landscape of ghosts and memories. The ashes of the old world, the ethereal dust of all that was burned begins to coalesce. I see the faint, shimmering outline of a mountain range, a spectral echo of the one that was melted by Surtra's fire. I see the ghostly impression of a great river, its waters now silent and insubstantial. The world is dreaming of itself. It is a world made of regret and nostalgia, a pale grey imitation of the vibrant, living world that it once was. There are no colors here, only shades of ash and memory. The ghosts of great trees reach their phantom limbs towards a sky that isn't there. The silent, spectral forms of animals drift through the ethereal forests, leaving no tracks, making no sound. It is a world in mourning for itself, a beautiful, heartbreaking echo of its own death. And in this world of ghosts, I see figures. Not many, just a handful. They are walking through the ashen fields. their forms solid and real in this insubstantial landscape. They are the survivors, the few who were prophesied to endure the great destruction, the seeds from which a new world will spring. They are the leftovers of the gods, the ones who were not present at the final bloody feast. I see the sons of Odin, Vidar the Silent and Vali the Avenger. Their purpose fulfilled, their vengeance had, they now wander this grey wasteland, their faces grim, their eyes filled with the memory of the fire. They are gods of violence and vengeance in a world that has no one left to fight. They are relics of the old world, trying to find their place in the new silence. And I see the sons of Thor, Magni and Modi. They have come to this dead world to claim their father's legacy, and they find it, half buried in the spectral dust. Mjolnir, the great hammer, lying where it fell from their father's dying grasp. Magni, whose name means strength, stoops and lifts the hammer. It glows with a faint, gentle light in his hands, its thunderous power now quiet and subdued. It is a tool of creation now, not destruction, a heavy burden for two young gods to bear. They are the inheritors of a ruined kingdom, the children left to clean up after their parents' catastrophic party. They walk through the silence, their footsteps the first real sounds this new world has ever known. They speak to each other in low voices, their words seeming impossibly loud in the oppressive quiet. They are trying to make sense of what has happened, trying to find a future in a world that is made of nothing but the past. And then two more figures emerge from a hidden place, from the wood of Hodhimir, the one place on earth that Sutra's fire could not touch. A man and a woman, Lift and Lithrasir, life and the will to live. They were the two mortals chosen to survive, to hide away while the world burned, to become the ancestors of a new race of men. They look out at the grey, silent world with eyes full of fear and wonder. They are the new Adam and the new Eve, and their garden is a field of ash. They are the hope, the tiny, fragile, almost insignificant spark of hope in a universe of despair. The idea that even after a total, absolute, world-ending cataclysm, life, in its stubborn, relentless way, finds a way to continue. It is a humbling and terrifyingly optimistic thought. The gods may have failed, but life itself endures. The silence is broken by another sound now. Not the footsteps of the survivors, but a gentle melodic sound like the plucking of harp strings. From the grey mists, a figure emerges. It is Balder the Beautiful, the god whose death set this whole bloody affair in motion, returned from the depths of hell. With him is his brother Hodda, the blind god who was tricked into killing him. They are reconciled, their past sins washed away by the worldfire. Their return is the first true sign of renewal, the promise that even the deepest wounds can be healed. They find a set of golden game pieces in the ashen grass, the very ones the gods used to play with in Asgard before the world fell apart. They sit, these few survivors, in the ruins of the old world, and they begin to play, a quiet, contemplative game. It is not a game of war or conquest, but a game of strategy and patience. They are not planning a new kingdom. They are simply passing the time, rediscovering the simple act of being, together, in the quiet. This is the new world, not a world of grand halls and epic battles, but a world of quiet conversations and simple games, a world of survivors, bound together by a shared trauma and a fragile hope. It is a world that has learned the terrible lesson of its predecessor. It is a world that understands the price of arrogance and the value of peace. And so, my broadcast from the end of everything transforms into a broadcast from the beginning of something new. I have chronicled the death of a world, and now I am witnessing the first hesitant breaths of the next one. My purpose as a witness is fulfilled. The story has been told, from the first chill of Fimbulwinter to the first quiet game of the new gods. The silence is no longer terrifying. It is peaceful. It is the silence of a fallow field, waiting for the first seeds to be planted. It is the silence of a new dawn, waiting for a new sun to rise. And as I watch Life and Livtrasir, walk towards the surviving gods. As I see the first tentative smiles on their faces, I know that a new sun will rise. It has to. My voice is fading now, my connection to this story weakening. It is time for me to join the silence, to become another ghost in this world of memories. But I leave this record behind, a testament to the world that was and a welcome to the world that will be. Remember the fire, remember the silence, and above all, remember that even in the deepest darkness, there is always the possibility of a new dawn. This is Magnus signing off forever. The story is yours now. Therefore, this final transmission is a bridge from the age of fire to the age of ash and renewal. It is the last piece of the old world and the first piece of the new. Do not let this bridge collapse. Do not miss the cosmic silence and the whisper of rebirth that follows. Subscribe to our channel. Become a part of the new world's first story. Ring that bell and let its sound be the first note in the symphony of the age to come. The silence is waiting. Listen closely. This is Bjord. I was Magnus before the fire, I think. Names don't seem to matter much anymore. I am the voice that remains, the final echo. The world has been unmade, cleansed by a fire that burned away even the gods themselves. After the flames, there was a silence so profound it felt like the universe was holding its breath. I have lingered in that silence, a ghost in the void, and I have watched as the ashes of the old world began to dream of a new one. I have seen the first tentative steps of the survivors in a world scrubbed clean of its old hatreds. And now I can hear it. The first trickling of water, the first song of a bird that has no memory of giant wolves. A new age is beginning, not with a roar, but with a whisper. The great, grim stage of Vigrid is now just a memory, a bad dream in the mind of the cosmos. The sons of Odin and Thor now walk a world of grey ash and spectral mountains, the weight of their fathers' legacies heavy on their shoulders. They have found Mjolnir, but it is quiet now, its thunder spent. They have found the golden game pieces of the gods, a small, sad reminder of a time of peace before the long, slow spiral into chaos. They are the old world's leftovers, the inheritors of a throne of dust, tasked with the impossible burden of not repeating the mistakes of their forebears. A task at which every generation, I suspect, is doomed to fail, but they must try. From the wood of Hodgmimir, the one place the world fire could not touch, have come Lif and Lifthrasir, a man and a woman, the last of our kind. They look upon the new world with the wide, terrified eyes of children. Theirs is the future of humanity. From them, a new race of mortals will spring, a race that will not know the names of Odin or Thor, a race that will not be burdened by the prophecies and feuds of the old gods. They are a blank slate, a chance for humanity to get it right this time, or, more likely, to find new and exciting ways to get it spectacularly wrong. The eternal optimist I know, and Baldur the Beautiful has returned. His death was the catalyst for all this destruction, and his return is the first true symbol of renewal. He walks with his blind brother Hodre, their ancient enmity washed away in the fires of the apocalypse. They are the bridge between the old world and the new, gods of a kingdom that no longer exists, yet tasked with guiding the one that is to come. Theirs is a quiet, gentle divinity, one of peace and reconciliation, a far cry from the thunder and fury of their father's generation. Perhaps this time the gods will be gardeners instead of warlords. And so, as the fires die down and the old world sinks into the primordial waters, this has been Beyond the Broadcast Skald, your humble and surprisingly still intact guide through the glorious, horrifying madness of Ragnarok. We saw the wolves, we saw the lightning, and we saw the end of everything. Turns out, it was even louder than the drinking horns at a feast. We bore witness to the fall of gods, the rise of monsters, and the burning of the very sky. It has been a terrible, magnificent, and frankly exhausting spectacle. I wouldn't have missed it for the world, which is good, because there's not much of it left. If this desperate, darkly humorous transmission from the very edges of existence has given you a fresh perspective on a bad day, or perhaps made you appreciate your own world's relative lack of giant serpents, then my purpose is served. I set out to carve a record onto a stone, and I have ended up carving it onto the memory of the universe itself. A strange fate for a simple skald. But then, these have been strange times. I have been your eyes and ears through the end of all things, and I thank you for listening. This broadcast is now an artifact, a relic of a lost age, a message in a bottle from a world that drowned in fire and fury. But it is also a seed of memory, a seed of warning, a seed of a story that, against all odds, has survived. The future is unwritten. The new gods and the new mortals have a blank page before them. Will they write a saga of peace and prosperity? Or will they, in their own time, create new monsters, forge new resentments, and set the stage for another, different but equally spectacular end? Only time will tell. Keep listening, keep questioning, and for the sake of whatever comes next, keep that subscribe button pressed, because even from the ashes of annihilation a new story begins. And who knows, maybe it'll have fewer wolves. This is my final transmission, my last testament. The story is yours now. Do with it what you will. Remember the folly, remember the bravery, remember the silence. And remember that even the longest winter must eventually give way to the spring. Hail to the listener,